The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
Hey, it's episode number 117, and it is 252 days till the man burns as of this recording. Yeah. That Save Black Rock City campaign is in full effect. I hear you, new listener Jesse. Jesse messaged us asking if this is a topic we've gotten into or will be getting into. Listen, I'm not an expert on Burning Man Org's finances or legal entity stuff. I'm not even an expert on my own finances. I'm barely an expert on what the fuck is going on in my Venmo account. So I don't feel solid about conveying information to you about what's going on with Burning Man organization. The org being the Internal Revenue Service recognized business or nonprofit entity that makes that Gerlach regional event happen every year. This is an important differentiation for me and for you listeners listening to the show. This show is about the Burning Man movement that Larry and Jerry sparked off on Baker Beach on that fateful day, which has led to this international community and consciousness of which you and I are a part of. Whether or not an annual pilgrimage to Black Rock City happens, this is why I feel regardless of that, this is why I feel confident counting down man burn regardless of COVID and what else is going on in the world. We have confirmed, we did on this last burn night as a community, that the man will fucking burn, and he will burn all over the world regardless of what's happening in default reality. Regardless of what's going on with Burning Man Org or the Burning Man Project, regardless of if Black Rock City happens. I think nonprofits, I don't know. I think like they can't carry over a surplus annually or something. I don't really know. Because I know I've heard a lot of people in my circle say things like, well, if I was running a business that couldn't survive 1 year of it not having an event, then my business has bigger problems, which I can appreciate, but my years of working in the public sector leads me to understand that it's a little more complex than that. I can just tell you that the donations button are up at burningman.org. I would love to do an episode with someone from the org as soon as humanly possible so we can break down the details of this whole thing, of what this all means for the future of the Burning Man event in Nevada. But I can definitely assure you my thought based on my understanding of the culture in the community is that a lot of it around the world, the culture is going to continue to exist. So let's see if an episode that we can really break this all down for you comes together. Perhaps on my next trek out to the Bay Area. But yeah, burners are going to continue to burn in one fashion or another. Whether or not Burning Man itself happens, that's a different discussion. I want to do an episode on that. I hear you. It's definitely important and interesting. But fear not, dear listeners, we have zero plans of abandoning the playa on this show. In fact, today's epic chat with Brendan Robinson takes place almost entirely in and around Black Rock City. That is, of course, when it's not taking place inside Brendan's head. Brendan Robinson is the co-founder of the Icarus Art Car. Today's episode conversation happened to formulate in such a perfect 3-act structure. We begin with him as a bit of a more fear-based thinking 21-year-old whose only perception of Burning Man is that it's 50 hippies in the desert, where he helped build that old school Grim Reaper pulling a coffin art car. You've definitely seen it if you've looked at old photos of Burning Man. That experience of working on that art car takes him deeper into the unraveling of his perceptions of default reality, which culminates in the final act of this particular interview's story, where Brendan joins a super team of co-founders who brought the epic art car Icarus to life. Brendan's into some spacey shit. I feel like if you've spent any time around or on Icarus and you listen to this episode, you'd go, yeah, that sounds about right. This is the guy that I'd expect to be behind that art car. Today's chat goes a tad longer than my usual ones, but it's also one of the best ones I've ever recorded in its structure. Listener, no fucking around. I am pretty proud of this one. Brendan's cool and all, but pat on the back for me. After the chat, you will be treated to a bassy, booty shaky set from Beat Kitty, which was recorded at Bat Country on 2&A. That was Friday night at Burning Man of 2018. Producer Lana Boy took over producer Louis' part of the job for this episode and did meticulous research, listening to multiple sets by Icarus regulars, and decided on this set to accompany today's interview, which is kind of fun to me because I'm like 90% sure that I was there for this set on Playa. Because if it's Friday night at Burning Man, chances are extremely high that you can find me at the Flaming Bastards Bar and hanging out with some of my dearest friends at the Backcountry and Miscreant Village. Hell, I'm pretty sure my ex-roommate Mayad actually went on before or after Beat Kitty. So shrug emoji. Today's chat is entitled Lights in the Sky. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the lights. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was the flowers above and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no name.
We can talk a little bit. Okay. I gotta keep some sort of mystery.
No mysteries will be left after an hour and a half of this.
Okay.
You were asking me about lights in the sky in San Diego. Tell me what it is you were going to ask me about it.
This is a thing I love asking people about, because surprisingly most people have an answer.
Yeah.
And this all just came from when I was a small child. I grew up in Massachusetts, and probably when I was about 5 years old, we're all sitting around the table in our dining room playing Uno, and I see these two super bright lights outside the window across the street. And I'm a kid who loves my machines. I'm like, oh yes, a helicopter. And these lights just get super, super, super bright. And then there's a massive earthquake.
Wow.
And my parents are freaking out. I've never seen my parents freak out ever. I'm 5.
You said 5.
I'm about 5.
What kind of, can you tell me what kind of neighborhood it was? Were you in a rural area?
It's rural-ish.
Okay.
It was suburbia, but it's like our neighbors are 200-300 feet away.
Okay.
People would ride horses down the street. It was kind of on the edge of modern.
Right.
We heated the house with wood.
Yeah. I feel like it's just far away from a central city area.
Yeah, it was pretty much suburban. It was very spread out suburban.
Sure. Okay. So giant lights. How long did they last?
I'm looking at them for 10 seconds.
Okay.
I'm just mesmerized. I'm staring at them because they're just so bright and they look like they're coming right towards the house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, helicopter, big machine in the sky, something, kids love. And then massive earthquake. Now, nobody ever told me about an earthquake. We missed that lesson in kindergarten, I guess. The whole house is rocking. The picture frames are swinging back and forth.
Yeah.
Chairs are falling over, plates are falling down. My parents are freaking out, and I'd never seen that. So that I'm as far as I'm concerned, this is the wrath of God or something, And they're freaking out, and I'm actually pretty entertained by this because you're a child, it's oh look, it's the whole house is dancing. And then as quickly as it started, it just stopped. It just very abruptly stopped, and I just look and I see those two lights, and they just fade to nothing.
Huh.
So, and when I tell people this story, everyone has an explanation. Oh, it was this, it was this, it was this. I don't really care what it was.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And realistically, it doesn't fit into a lot of explanations. Was it a helicopter that literally just turned around? Most likely it was. I don't know, but all I know is in my mind, it was the fact that it was paired with this big earthquake, which are not common for Massachusetts.
Right.
Earthquakes in general are not common for Massachusetts. But for this to happen, it was just like it burnt deeply into my memory, which just made me always look up when I'd go outside. All throughout my life, it would be like, when's the next weird thing gonna fly by?
Yeah.
And, it's like I've seen unexplainable things. So I'll ask my friends, like, what have you seen weird?
Yeah.
What weird stuff have you seen?
Were you asking me generally about lights in the sky in San Diego, or are there lights in the sky reported in San Diego that I'm not privy to?
Yeah, the reason I have asked is a lot of the people I've met in San Diego say that they live by the beach and they see these lights drop into the ocean.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of military activity out there.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, people always go right to like, I'll have this conversation and I'll have to say 2 out of 3 times somebody says, I don't believe in aliens.
Right.
And I never ask that.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally asking you about lights.
Right. The assumption is that if you're presenting a subject, you already have an attachment to the outcome of the conversation.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole we're going to go down in your personality. Because that's... consistently when I do have really good conversations with people, and I think it's something probably I've developed through years of doing this, being able to have conversations without having an attachment to like where the outcome's going can be particularly destabilizing for people, because the mind seems to be programmed, like focused on having some sort of we're constantly filling in the gaps, like that's what the brain's doing, right? Like an example of it is they say like there's a study about how like when you're listening to somebody having a conversation on the subway, if they're talking to their friend next to them, it's not annoying. But when they're on the phone, for some reason, it's irritating.
Yeah.
And the idea behind that is that the brain is trying to fill in the gaps constantly of what that information is that's coming at it, because you're getting a bit and then you've got nothing. And then you're getting a bit more, then you got nothing. So the brain gets irritated and it says, I need to fill in this gap right away. So would you say that you were comfortable with not filling in those gaps since childhood?
Oh, absolutely. I think my comfort actually lies in the gaps to be filled.
Yeah.
So it's I totally love mysteries and the things that people don't want to look at or they don't want to question, because then they might have to answer for something that they're not comfortable with. They might have to back something up, so people stay away from it. Yeah. That's the stuff that is the most interesting to me.
Yeah. The general, there's a, that's the other thing people will do. Probably on lots of previous life experiences, they've had that gap analysis trying to fill in information thing, and it becomes traumatic because they don't want to feel the pain. So the reason this was interesting to me when you brought it up before we started recording, I immediately was like, that's going to be the key to kind of understanding a lot of your motivations in creating Icarus. So you were like destined to end up in like burner culture and.
You know what? I feel like I was funneled into it throughout my life.
Mm-hmm. When did you become aware of Burning Man?
It was 2000. I think it was 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of funny. I worked at a place that was like really ragtag visual effects editing and doing TV commercials, and there was like. The company was like 3 kids. We were like 21, like all of us. It was all our first job. And this guy was just pretty much like, here, you guys are in charge of this. Just do it. Know how to do it instantly.
This is where?
This was in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Okay.
And so it's like to find the 3 of us are just scrambling to try to figure out how this industry works so that we can do it correctly. And this one girl is like, oh, I'm going on vacation. My friend who goes to Berkeley is going to this party in the desert with all these hippies. And while she's gone, one of the other guys that is a good friend of mine I went to high school with, he's like, I don't know anything about that party out there, except for some people don't ever come back. Now,
accurate, actually, and spiritually speaking.
And it's like it's funny because it's like I give that guy a southern accent, he doesn't have it. It's just like in my mind he does, and now lives in the South. Yeah. But
it's good radio. I appreciate that very much in my guests. Good work.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, he's like, yeah, that's all I know is, some people never come back. I'm like, what do you mean never come back? Like, don't they go looking for them? Some people just go missing and it's like, oops, lost another one to that party. So.
okay. So I imagine that made you want to go more.
No, I didn't even want to go. Yeah. So I tried looking it up online. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything at all. And I'm like, well, whatever. It's just some little, little.
This is 2004. What was the state of online? Like,
I had just set Google as my homepage.
Yes.
Because it loaded faster than the other ones.
Yes. Yeah. Because Yahoo was like the dominant one back then.
And it was like it was a wall of ads, and it would slowly pop up one by one.
Yeah. Listen, kids. For those of you who don't know, this is when Google took over. They're like, instead of putting a bunch of ads, we just have one search bar.
It was just a search bar. Yeah. It was.
Yeah. So you do a bunch of research. There's nothing out there.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything. And then my buddy, he was just like, he's like, yep, there's some people just don't come back.
Yeah.
Well, she did. This girl, she came back, and she comes straight up to me like in the morning that she's back, and she's like, oh my God, I have to tell you, it was life-changing. And I'm like, I can't wait to hear what's life-changing. Yeah. I can't wait to hear what little incident you had that changed you forever. And she's like, the conversations, the people, it was so amazing. I'm not meant to be here. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit, and I'm going to drive out to LA. I'm like, okay, all right. And then she's like, yeah, I might quit right now. I don't know. I'm like, why don't you wait like an hour? Just think about it.
Yeah.
she's like, you're right. I should settle in. Like, she has her backpack on,
Still covered in dust. Yeah. My first burn, I had multiple people tell me, do not make life decisions within 30 days.
Wise.
Yeah. So, what else is going on in your life in this time period? This is now, you've had the introduction, the seed has been planted.
I wouldn't even say the seed has been planted at this point. What it was the mystery. What happened?
Yeah.
What can happen to someone in 1 week that makes them decide to just uproot everything that they're comfortable with and have built towards for the last, she was in New York, she went to NYU, she wanted to be an editor, she studied it, she had all her friends here. What conversation did she have that she goes, I'm out?
Yeah.
And it was I just remember going back to my buddy and I was like, yo, I get the story now. we're losing one. And it was a week later, or it was a couple hours later, she went in, told our boss that she was leaving and she had no job lined up, and she broke her lease, told her landlord what happened, and the guy kind of was just like, yeah, sure, here, just go. Wow. Packed up her car and just left. This all happens in a week. She gets back, and that week was just to pack her clothes and leave. So yeah, I'll try to keep the story short because there's a lot of details.
No, please don't.
But it was the year after that, one of the other guys I worked with, and again, we're just a small group of young kids.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to check that thing out.
Yeah.
So he goes out.
What kind of work is it that you're doing? I'm sorry?
Computer animation.
Okay.
So I was working at a small direct response commercial agency / production company.
Okay.
So if you know anything about graphics and the commercial world, this is the bottom feeder place. This is the absolute most horrible, middle of the night, call now, fake sticker you put on your phone and it boosts the signal stuff.
Wow.
But I wanted to do visual effects for movies.
Right.
And I was getting nasty letters. I'm applying for internships and they're never write to us again. Please just think of a different career.
Were you that bad? It's soul crushing.
Which is funny though, because I've worked on Disney jobs since, it's like, yeah. I kind of wish I had the letter still.
Yeah.
But
would you say working in the field that you do, it seems to me like it would be like a kind of like the perfect overlap of being very technologically interested and creative, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've always liked, I guess the simple thing is like kind of creating magic in a way. Magic in the sense of that which makes you feel awe. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not doing card tricks. Right. I cannot do a card trick to save my life. But if I can build something, or if I can have a conversation that just puts a wow on someone's face, I love that. Right. I love that because I love being on the other side of it. So it's like, I feel like it's some sort of currency that I'm exchanging with only specific people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you, and again, correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but like it seems like the appreciation you get from it is that experience people have that they maybe like weren't 100% sure that they were about to be wowed. Like the painter who likes for you to really see their brush strokes versus the ones who create something that looks so real that you're just blown away and you think you were looking at a photograph.
Yeah.
Well, that sense.
No, it does make sense because it's like I do want people to see the brushstrokes. Mm-hmm. That is important to me in anything I do. I want people to realize that like I'm a simple fool, and like if I can do this, you can do this. So I've always wanted my art to be like impressive but accessible.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh yeah, look at this crazy thing. I watched a couple of YouTubes and I had a couple of conversations and all I did was want to do it. Yeah. And I feel like that's a nice message I like to share with people because I've over the years had people come back to me and they're like, yeah, you were totally right. Yeah. They're like, oh, I decided to go to grad school. I decided to open a company. I did a startup. Like I, changed my hairstyle. I dumped my girlfriend. Like this thing I was stuck on. And it was just like this little conversation. And that makes me feel great.
Yeah.
That it's just like kind of just telling someone like, hey, you're allowed to change your mind.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do whatever you want. And you literally can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it's
for, over years of doing these interviews and connecting with as many people as I have through this show. I would say that the personality thing that you just described about yourself is one of the most consistent factors that I've observed in people that gravitate towards Burning Man. And there's I feel like in a lot of different industries and cultures we'll have that, there's this like finite explanation, like no mystery. We're going to tell you this is the way it is, right? Like Disney saying, choose a different career. This is not even up for discussion. We know everything and we know that this doesn't, and then it turned out, of course, they didn't know everything because you have worked on Disney projects, right? Yeah. So I feel like that is like one of the common things that does gravitate a lot of people to this like community and culture is that there's a sense of like, no, we can figure it out. You can figure it out too. I can teach you how to do it, and we get like a high out of that. There's a compression kind of feeling, like an artistic compression, if you will, like that sense of, yay, like other people can experience this joy and I can show you how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, fill in the gap between this time period then. You were describing working in the animation studio and describing kind of what it was like, and then as time was going, you're starting to do more research about what's going on at Burning Man. How does it come back up into your life?
Yeah, well, so one of the other guys who was working with us, his name is Nick, he decides to go because it's like there's 4 of us that are running this place and we're all brand new. And the first one, Heidi, she just leaves. And I'm amazed by this because it's like we all got really close really quick. And then Nick is like, you know what, I want to go check it out. Like his interest was piqued. Yeah. So he goes, and then was it before or after? I think he might have actually moved on his own. Oh yeah, he moved on his own to LA. But it's like then he goes, I'm keeping in touch with both of them, and he's like, you have to check this thing out. He's like, it is the most amazing. And I was like, okay, come on. Like, I was like, is this a cult? Like, are you guys in a cult? I was like, what? There's nothing somebody can just say to me. And I'm like, yes, master, I'll see you next year. So yeah, I am piqued. But I'm like, I'm not going to go. I don't go to music festivals. I was just never, me and my friends, it just wasn't our thing.
Yeah.
So it was unknown, and it was nothing that made me drawn to it, or, any sort of art festival or Campaway festival, nothing. I've just done none of it.
Yeah.
And
was enough information being relayed to you that you were processing it as kind of a music festival?
No, so the idea I had in my head was that it was about like maybe 50 unwashed people with dreads dancing around a fire that smelled, and there was a lot of weed being smoked.
Yeah, I know a few of those parties.
That's real. That's the picture that was drawn to me from people.
Yeah.
And I was like, that doesn't sound like something I'm really clamoring to do.
Yeah.
So he's telling me about it, and I'm like, yeah, you had the amazing people, amazing conversations. I get it. And he's just like, yeah. Oh, and there's these things called art cars. What's in a art car? Because in my head, it sounds like something.
Yeah.
It sounds like art and car put together. And tell me more about this.
Technology and creativity overlapping.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, people just like take a car or a truck as a base, and they just kind of like build it out, and they drive them around, and you can just kind of do whatever you want, and people hop on and hop off. And now I'm interested. And now I'm having flashbacks to high school where somebody goes, hey, Brandon, I got asked because my dad is an architect to build the float for homecoming.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's a float? Well, a float is an art car.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
And that's where it started, because it's like, oh, you want my help? And then I ended up like creating all these little innovations and kind of leading the design. And I was like, this is great. This is some mega awesome robot puppet thing that everybody just like enjoys. Everybody involved enjoys it. The people building it, the people watching it. So it's just this like joy fountain. And I'm like, okay, well, here's this option coming into my lap again. And he goes, and I'm thinking about building one of my own.
Okay.
You sure you still don't want to come? Like, oh, damn. It's like, all right, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
So he tells me that, it would be good if I can get a couple weeks off. And at the time I could get 2 weeks off of work. So I went out to LA and I helped him build this art car that this guy had no money. Nick, I love you. You had no money at the time. You sank every penny you had into this art car.
Oh my God.
Bless you for what you did. Like this was an expensive, project. It needed this like custom trailer and all this like, stuff needed to be built right so people didn't fall and die. And he bought a sound system and some lights, and there was no LEDs back then. We literally had like incandescent bulbs in those Home Depot like silver dome things clipped to it.
Oh my gosh.
Big generator, because even those it was hard enough to run 2 of those lights.
Yeah.
But
there's still a lot more like fire lit nights back then.
Oh yeah. Oh I remember it being so dark that like it was scary to be out at night because you might get hit by somebody in a bicycle, and you'd have a flashlight, but you didn't have clothes made of LEDs like you do now, or even just such bright LEDs you can be seen from far away. You'd have some one of those like D battery flashlights that you got to keep smacking.
Man. Some like out there desert tribal shit. It's a whole different world.
Yeah, that was rough ancient living.
Yeah.
Back then.
So art car build. You're out there for a couple of weeks in LA.
We end up building this thing, and it's like next to some like train storage area, which is like looks like a scene from a movie. I was like, where is this place? We're building this weird thing in this like abandoned warehouse neighborhood. So the whole thing was an amazing adventure.
Yeah.
And we built up this art car in Nick's vision, which was, I don't know where he was led to this decision, but it was a giant coffin being dragged by a giant Grim Reaper.
Okay.
He could have told me like it was a giant poodle, like, you know, dragging a dead raccoon. And I would have been like, yeah, that sounds like, I love it. So,
it was the process that interested you more than the outcome.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, we're going to make this work. And he had a lot of it planned out already. But, you know, it's like I get there and he's like, all right, so the Grim Reaper is going to be about 25 feet tall and he's going to be dragging with these giant chains, this giant coffin, which will also have a real coffin on it, which is the bar.
Yeah.
Which has bags of blood, which is like wine and stuff. And we're going to play, you know, goth music / pop music / whatever we feel like playing. I have this iPod. iPad. What was it? iPod, yeah.
Yeah, definitely wasn't a pad. It wasn't out back then.
It was one of the ones where you just put music in it and it connects to nothing but the speakers.
Yeah, fun fact, that's where the word podcast came from.
Really?
Because you listened to them on iPods and that was the only place that you could hear them.
Oh, wow.
Before it took over to Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
History lesson.
Yeah.
So, how did it come out?
It came out great. It was funny because it's like I was there and I was like letting him lead the way. And it was this interesting experience for me because I was kind of his boss for like a year. Like I chose him for an internship and then he was my intern and then I asked for him to be hired. And then it's like he always reported to me. Yeah. And now all of a sudden I'm reporting to him. And I had to keep telling myself because I was so used to being like, if something's not right, I need to say something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you should do it this way. It would be better for everyone if you did it this way. And I'm like, you're not in charge. You're not in charge. And I'd be like, oh, I'm going to watch this break.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything I'm watching, I'm like, all right, if I don't speak up, someone's going to get hurt. But I made a deal with myself to not say anything to him. It was his project, and I wasn't going to make it hell for him. And everything was fine. And so that was a nice life lesson right there.
Yeah. You're saying he didn't have any money. How did you figure a way out around that stuff?
He spent all of his money. Like, he spent money, but he just, like, he borrowed help. He got people interested that pitched in.
Yeah.
He just like, he has charisma. So he just like, he made it happen. He put his heart into this thing and it paid off.
Right.
So again, this is my lesson that I'm learning. And I'm like, okay. And it got to the point where I was like, this thing looks kind of cool. Like it's not perfect. It's not horrible, but it's like, I felt accomplished.
Right.
And I'm like, this is going to be so much fun. Like, I can't believe we have this thing. And I'm like, oh, wow, like, let's get a blender. Let's, like, blend frozen drinks in the middle of the desert. Like, let's get as weird as we can.
Yeah. And you still have this image in your head that it's 50 hippies with dreadlocks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
You know, at this point, I was starting to think maybe it was more. Because he said there was other art cars. And I'm like, well, do hippies know how to make art cars? So there must be some sort of, like, hybrid human hippie like builder person that is out there.
Because hippies aren't human. They're the underdwellers.
So this is I'm 21 at this point. My view of people is very narrow.
That's hilarious. So you had 2 weeks off work. Were you building the whole 2 weeks?
No.
Okay.
So the plan was come out to LA, build for a week, then, you know, drive it up there, spend a week there, drive it back, and I can leave.
Okay. So you get it. So you get it out to Playa. I'm assuming there were some adventures just getting it out there.
Oh yeah,
usually are.
Oh wow, yeah, there was plenty. Probably the most notable is when we were about like, when we were right before Reno, we realized that the attachment from the truck towing this custom welded trailer. This isn't a trailer that we built on top of. Yeah. He had someone build this trailer.
Yeah.
The trailer was about to fall apart.
Okay.
It was hanging from like a piece of metal like an inch wide and like 1/8 inch thick. Like it was a squared box steel tube that had broken.
Huh.
So we're looking at this and we're like, well, what the hell do we do? Like, get this welded? Like, go to the auto body shop for art cars? And we're like, we might.
What is this?
Right before Reno.
Okay.
So we're like, this is our last chance to do anything. What should we do? Because if this thing breaks off on the highway, like, we are in deep trouble. And we're also in the middle of a 2.5 stretch drive where there might not even be phone connection.
Right.
we went back and forth on it, and we're like, well, we can't like build it. We could wrap it with chains or something. And I think we really didn't know what to do. Yeah. You know, we're both kind of in this for the first time together, and just like, well, we kind of know how to build stuff. We really just wing it. Yeah. But in this case, like, I don't want to mess with this thing and make it worse. And it also has potentially lasted us all the way from LA, which was like 20 hours or
wow, yeah.
However long it's supposed to be, I don't know.
Yeah. When you said no phone connection, by the way, immediately my thought was also, and back then it was probably a Razor or something that you had, or no. Yeah. It's like, not the supercomputer that we have in our pockets now.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
Well, we decided to just. Well, I'd say it was really Nick. It was his project. This was another moment where I was just like, it's his decision. Mm-hmm. I can complain about everything being dangerous, but it's his decision. It's his project. And he was like, let's just drive slow.
Okay.
He's like, you know, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. Let's just drive slow. So we drive slow. I'm biting my nails the whole time, and I'm like,
yeah. Man answer. Like, fuck it. Let's just, I don't know, duct tape it. Got any zip ties?
Yep, government issued zip ties and duct tape.
You get out there. Is there like a DMV process back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was.
What was your first impression when you got out on Playa?
Well, so this was great because it's like since we did decide to drive slow, that drive from Reno, I think we literally drove like 20 miles an hour from Reno to Burning Man. It took, I don't know, like 7 hours or some excessive amount of time.
Yeah.
So when we get there, it is like, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the morning.
That's normal.
Now, again, I'm told this was in the desert. So we get off the highway and we're driving and it's dusty everywhere. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Mm-hmm. What is this junk? Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, that's the playa. I'm like, what's playa? And he's like, oh, it's the ground is made of powder. And I'm like, what? What do you mean the ground is made of powder? I thought we were in the desert. He's like, yes, this is the desert. This is a dried lake bed. I was like, oh, okay. So it's not all. We go back to the original vision of the hippies in the circle in sand dunes and cactuses. So now sand dunes and cactuses are gone, and it's powder. It's flat powder. It's pitch black. There's not a lot of lights. There's every once in a while one of those like work lights that, you know, have the generator that you see super bright, but you can only see like 100 feet around it.
Right.
We can see barely anything. And we go through the gate, and they're like, you get out here, and they like throw you to the ground and like make you play in the dust, and they spank you, and they do all sorts of things you're not allowed to do to people anymore.
Yeah, I'm about to say, that was just even the throwing you on the ground part.
I know, it's funny because it's like, I was like, that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Like, fine, like spank me. I love the initiation part of it. It was really something nice. I'll tell people that story now, and they're like, they touched you?
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
Like, you know what? Yeah. I was fine with it.
Yeah.
and you weren't there, so
my first entrance, I think like the greeter was like just had like a really long night or something. She didn't want to deal with it. She's like, well, you've had a long trip, do you want to do the Dust Angel? I'm like, it kind of feels weird if you're like just giving me the option. Yeah, sure. And then I lay down and I do it.
Some people like it.
All right. It was like very anticlimactic.
Aw, man.
I could have used the spanking. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
So continue.
So then they're like, oh, okay, you're at 3 and D, and they're like, so just head off to the right. So we just head off to the right, and we're going kind of in that outer circle. And it's pitch black, and really, again, people don't have LEDs. People's camps are black. Like it's 2 a.m. Like it was very, very dark. Yeah. So every once in a while, I'd see there's a tent with a little like light on it, and there's no LEDs. Yeah. No, like it was barely. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there was even LEDs. I think there was different propane lamps and things, but up until about 2012, things were fairly dark.
Yeah.
And but we probably passed like 100 tents, and I turned to Nick and I'm like, "How far is it to our campsite?" And he's like, "Oh, we're like a third of the way there."
Okay.
I was like, Nick, this looks like way more than 50 people. He goes, who the hell told you this was 50 people? I was like, I don't know. Somebody made it sound like it was like 50 people, maybe 100. It's like, this is 40,000 people. So now here, I thought we were the lead in the art car parade because our art car was clearly going to be the largest one at 25 feet tall. And that there was a big parade down the middle of the 50 people hippie camp party, and that they were all going to be so happy that we were there leading the way into their own party. Yeah, I guess I was wrong.
That's one of the questions I often ask is like, what's that first like punch you in the gut moment?
Yeah,
that sounds like that was it.
And I remember just like looking around then and just seeing like towers, like 50-foot towers, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And we stop, and he's like, just run out there real quick. Run out there. And I'm like, I'm going to run across the whole thing. I probably ran about 2 blocks, and I was like, I can't go any further. That was a run. And I got nowhere. I was like, I'm going right back.
God, I'm just appreciating what a natural psychedelic trip that must have felt like at 21 to go into an experience like that. I mean, again, like now we have like all these videos and photos and stuff. So like when people go into Burning Man, like they've already like consumed a lot of material about it.
Yeah.
This show being one of them, right? But to have that experience like that you got to have that wow moment that you appreciate creating for other people, like at that level.
Oh wow, yeah, that's true.
That was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So you're blown away by it. What is the rest of the week like? I mean, were you immediately like, okay, I'm addicted, I'm coming back every year?
It wasn't instant because like I still didn't know what it was. I didn't know. I still kind of thought there was a parade. And that there was like, you drive in a line, like a town, like a parade in your town.
Sure.
And it's like, here's your like, I guess I just thought it was homecoming.
Yeah.
It was just homecoming with hippies.
Yeah.
So, it's like the next day, and we just have tons of problems to solve. Trying to get our stuff to not blow away, trying to not suffocate in the tent with the dry ice. The connection to the trailer is still busted. I'm like pretty broken up about this because I'm like, we put in all this work and all of not my money, and look where we are. And Nick, bless Nick for his stability throughout this. He's like, oh, I'll just go find somebody to fix it for us. And it's like, I already have a meltdown in Reno saying we're not going to be able to find somebody to fix this. It's such a weird thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, it'll be fine. So we start driving. I think we drive like 100 feet, and he sees some guys welding, and he's like, hey guys, how's it going? Like our trailer broke. You think you could help us weld it? And the guy's like, yeah, I guess. Just leave it here. I'm like, okay. And we walk back to our camp. I'm like, Nick, you just gave our art car to some people. And he's like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm like, it's fine. You don't know them at all. And I don't know. It's like half an hour later, and the guy comes back. He's like, hey, do you want to get this art car? And I was like, see, Nick, they weren't going to do anything. And he's like, yeah, we're done. I'm like, done? We go back there, and they had like they had extra steel, or they borrowed it, and they welded us a whole new like trailer attachment was like 3 times the strength of the original one. So now all the fears of even getting back home are gone. I was like, wow, this is better than a regular trailer. Like they did such an amazing job for just people. I don't even know if we had their names.
Yeah.
And these people just randomly fix our whole weekend, like our whole week. You know, and all the anxiety went away. It's like, and it was nothing to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, so what are we're supposed to barter with them, right? We're supposed to trade. I was like, what do you trade? Like a leg of lamb, or like a bucket of gruel? I I forget what he gave him. He gave him some like Cliff Bars or some other Burning Man currency, and he's just like, here you guys, here, take this. And they were like, oh, thanks. Oh, we didn't even need to.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, yeah, it was weird.
Was that an impactful moment for you in understanding the culture?
Oh yeah. I was still confused by like when you have an exchange with someone, it is a wrestling match over a balance between screwing the person and not getting screwed.
Right.
And that's how the world works.
Yeah.
Is everyone's trying to screw you, so you try to defend yourself, or you take an offensive move and try to screw them just so you can end up somewhere fair.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, to me, if it ended up fair, that was fine. I want things to be fair. So I found myself having to take I'm going to screw you over position just so we would end up fair. Because if I started out trying to make it fair, I'd get screwed. Yeah. So it was very confusing for me to go into this and see like these guys were willing to do this and not charge us anything. They didn't want anything. They didn't want a favor. They didn't want us to like go round them up girls or some weird thing that people actually do want you to do there now.
Right.
That's another story.
Yeah. We'll get to it.
But yeah, that's kind of like how the week went, was just like one after another, these moments where people are just doing things, like doing favors or giving me these special moments and then just walking away.
Yeah.
And I was, I had a really hard time with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all kind of really culminated when I decided I wanted to have my frozen drink in the desert, aren't we being ironic party.
Yeah.
So I had got a bunch of ice, a bunch of mixers, a bunch of booze, like a bunch of cups, and my blender, because we had a generator. And I'm like, we're going to be the only people there with a blender. As far as I was concerned, we were the only people there with an art car or a generator. I was like, people are going to love us. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
You know?
People who have showered in the past.
It's like, well, since, everyone there is depending on us for entertainment, I decided. So yeah, and we had a megaphone. So, and for me, I'd say I was probably, I don't know if I would say shy or just low volume. Typically, I didn't make a lot of noise. I didn't argue a lot. I would just, stay away from confrontation, or if I wanted my voice to be heard, if it wasn't heard, I would just move on.
Right. And
so it's like, I grabbed the megaphone and I'm just like, all right, well, this is pretty much my first time on a microphone anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, excuse me, everyone. Welcome to Burning Man. I have frozen drinks on the back of the giant coffin. Get your free frozen drinks. Come on over. If you have a cup, great. If you don't, just come on over and unlimited free drinks. Get over here. We also have some really awesome music that our DJ put together on his iPod.
Wow, that was fantastic progression of confidence.
And that is...
As it went on. That was really good.
So I'm here and I'm like... thinking back to the movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And I'm like, I hope they come and get the drinks. I spent all of my money. I spent what I thought was a lot of money making this drink moment happen, which was probably $100.
Yeah.
I'm like, if 2 people come and get a frozen drink, I will at least feel like I'm part of this thing where everyone gives me shit. Yeah. And we had within minutes, a crowd and a line.
Wow.
And 100 people lined up to get on. They're on the thing, dancing. And, I'd be like, oh, here's your drink. And they're like, oh, I have my own cup.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, great. I won't run out of cups because I got 50.
You brought solo cups for people?
Yeah. But then it was just more and more people. And then it's sorry, everybody, I'm almost out of cups. And I'm like, the line's huge. I've got 10 cups left.
Yeah.
And then somebody comes up and they're like, here's 100 cups.
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa. So I just said out loud that I needed something. And then it was oh yeah, sorry guys, I got booze, but I'm running out of mixers. Somebody shows up with 4 mixers and they're like, here's 4 mixers.
Wow.
I'm like, all right. I was like, all right guys, I'm gonna have to take a break in a bit. I'm getting a little hungry. Might not be serving drinks. Somebody's like, here's a sandwich I just made for you. I'm like, okay.
Oh my God,
I'm like,
amazing.
I think I died. Like, this is not real. Like, this makes no sense. This is not the real world at all. And then after that, it was like, we're out of booze. Here's more booze. We're out of ice. Here's more ice. This party went on the whole afternoon. Yeah. It was even a point where people took over and they were blending the drinks. And it's like, I'm sitting there watching the thing that I was going to do. And now all of a sudden I'm a guest.
That's awesome.
And after that, I probably just like sat in my tent for hours, extremely confused, because now I felt I was like, now I'm paying back. Like I kept feeling guilt about like feeling indebted to people.
Right.
They're like, here's a massage. Someone gave me a massage toy. I'm like, why are you giving me this like $30 massager? Because I gave you a frozen drink. Yeah. And I'm like sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, when I throw this party, like I will feel all the guilt washed away and I will feel equal with everyone here. And now I'm sitting there feeling even more guilty and more indebted to this party because I'm like, well, this was supposed to be my price of admission.
Amazing.
And now I look up at the thing and there's like 40 bottles of liquor and overflowing cups. And I think we have another blender now somehow. And I'm like, this is not what this was supposed to be. Like, now it's just guilt. I'm covered in guilt because people gave us so much stuff.
Like laying there in your tent, oh, my ego hurts. It's super interesting what you were describing. The experience. This is one of the big things that a lot of people will describe too. The experience of giving gifts for people in general comes a lot easier. Receiving it is like what really fucks with people's heads. Like learning how to like just receive. Because even your view that you were describing about like what your experience had been with the default world is that there's like, one person shows up with a rock, the other person shows up with a stick, and then the other person shows up with a bigger rock. Like, so the only way that you win is by showing up with like a bigger stick. And then this experience completely disrupted what your view of reality is,
yes,
that is a psychedelic, if anything.
I had an extremely hard time with it. Yeah. It was some sort of ingrained, I'll paint a picture of myself like in my tent, like holding myself rocking back and forth, like just like what I can't go back out there. Yeah. It was so confusing. Because it really triggered this thing in my head of like when someone gives you something, they're going to come back for something in return. Yeah. So like everything that I just did, who's coming and what do they expect in return? Like what are they coming back to collect? What sort of karmic thing did I just set myself up for? Right. And that is how we're trained. If somebody gives you something free, they're coming back. Yeah. They're coming back for their payment. In one way or another, there's no free lunch. There's no free piece of chicken at Sakaru in the mall. Wow. There's, some level of guilt or something that they'll get you with. Yeah. It took me probably a couple days to be okay with that. And,
a couple of days is not that much in the grand scheme of things for most people.
That's true.
Disrupting their entire view of reality. So I think you did pretty well.
Yeah.
What was the end of the week like?
I had my Burning Man romance. This girl camped right next to us.
Please tell me she had dreadlocks.
She did not.
Damn it.
After that would have really would have tied this all together. I might have to change the details for future reference. Oh my God, it's just amazing girl. I had never met someone who was just like happy and cheerful all the time, to the point where I'm again in the tent rocking back and forth going, when does the cheerfulness end? When does the demon side come out? Because it's not coming out. And I'm like, this girl is seriously nice all the time and cheerful and finds the positive in everything. Yeah. Like, how are you real? You're not. So I'm there, waiting for this party to come to collect and this girl to flip out on me. But it's like, I remember thinking like, she had gone out. She's like, oh, maybe I'll see you later. Now, you have to understand, I still have not really left the camp. And I couldn't tell you, like Nick said it was 40,000 people. I'm thinking it's like 500. I really didn't go out very far because it was very far to walk anywhere.
Right.
And I hate walking. So I don't think I ever left like 4-block radius for most of the week at the beginning of the week. But this girl, she's like, she was getting all ready and she's like, oh yeah, we're going out. And I was like, I'm like, I kind of want to hang out with this girl. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be going out later. She's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, we'll see you out there. I'm like, sure, I'll see you out there.
By the main drag, where the art car parade is at.
Yeah. I mean, it's 500 people.
Yeah, that's where everybody goes.
So I remember telling Nick, I was like, he was like, he's like, I really think you should, spend a night here on your own.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I that annoying? Nick, have you had it with me?
Yeah.
Like, that's how I took it.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. Like, explore on your own. You will thank me later. I'm not trying to get rid of you. I'm like, okay. All right. I was like, all right. I don't think I'd never gone on a trip by myself. I'd not really been on my own ever. Throughout college, you're on your own. But it was just like in this magical, weird place that I didn't understand how it operated. It felt really intimidating to go off on my own. I feel like I'm extremely independent, but I was intimidated. But I was like, you know what? I trust this guy. Like he's been my like guide into weirdness. So I'm going to continue to trust him. And so I was like, here, let me put some weird costume on and go wander off into the darkness, and I'll look for this girl. She said, I'll see you later out at whatever, the dance floor or something. And I ran into her in about 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, something happened. I was having fun talking to people, and she's like, oh, okay, well, I'll see you later. Maybe we'll cross paths again.
Yeah.
A couple hours later, I see her again. I didn't think this was a big deal. It was like, to me, it's like, I still didn't understand the scale of the place.
Yeah.
And how many people it was. And I ran into her at random times all throughout the rest of the week. I probably ran into her 20 times throughout the rest of that week. And it didn't hit me until years later that that's not really probable.
Yeah.
With 40,000 people, I should have lost her for the night. I should have lost her for a couple days. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of all this too, I had decided let's go off on our own at night. We were always with intermingling groups. And I was like, let's go off and just take a blanket and go off into the deep darkness and just look at the stars, look at the sky for a little bit. And, let's see. Oh, so yeah, it was then, that was the first burn night. And we were supposed to meet up, and then someone took her off to do a photo shoot or something, and we had to leave because all the cars started moving, and we start driving back, and I was like, well, I guess I lost her. I didn't get to have my little moment in the darkness, and it was. I felt like I had conversations that led up to this that were don't have expectations, just kind of let things happen, and I'm like, got my blanket under my arm, ready to go. And I'm upset that I didn't run into her again. And I was like, you know what? I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
This is fine. Something new will happen tonight. And it's within a minute, we drive right past her.
I love it.
And, I'm blown away. I'm this is another weird dimension.
Yeah.
I was like, that made no sense. There's a crowd of people, and even just driving back, for us to have driven right past somebody's walking path. Yeah. They're all over the place. People are scattered 500 feet in each direction, going back to their tents after the burn. And, so that was crazy. And she's like, and it was nothing, no big deal to her. She's like, I was like, oh, hey, how you doing? And she's like, oh, hey, cool. Yeah, I was wondering where you were. Let's go.
Wow. I keep, as you're telling this whole story, I keep thinking about my dear friend of mine, Helen, she's lived all over the world, partied in Mykonos. And she's she had said to me, lifelong atheist, 4 years at Burning Man, changed her mind about, she doesn't have like a solid answer, but she's like, there's something.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's not the certainty I had with atheism.
Yeah.
Before Burning Man.
Yeah.
It's these bizarre experiences that people have that make you, again, all of it is just disrupt your reality, disrupt what it is. So you go back into default world now with this experience. Did you quit your job right away?
I did not.
Okay.
I feel like when it comes to finances, I'm very practical.
Yeah. Tell me about how it kind of your relationship with the community developed over the coming years. Were you going once a year and kind of reconnecting with Burning Man, or did you go back next year?
Yeah. Well, so right away after that, I'm at home and I am like, everything's messed up now. Like I'm so confused because this is like after college. I'm still kind of hanging out with friends from college, but now everybody lives all over New Jersey and New York, and I don't really get to see people. They're like, a lot of friends I had in college, like they're getting married the year after college. They've got a house, a dog, possibly a kid on the way within a year. Yeah. So all of a sudden I'm finding myself like, oh, well, I'm kind of on the edge of New York in Hoboken. And like, I'd go out and talk to people and I really didn't like anybody. I'm like, well, I'm having trouble making friends. Like, this isn't like college. Like, these people I'm not meeting people that I enjoy conversing with. Right. So I'm kind of struggling with finding friends in New York.
And your standard for what that connection is like dramatically shifted at this point.
Yeah, well, at that point, I'm like, I think I just found my people.
Right.
I thought I was the weirdo, like the black sheep of everywhere I've ever existed. Like, I don't really fit in anywhere. And it's like, it's not one of these like movie stories where it's like the nerds and the jocks. And I was friends with people in my school. I wasn't great friends, but I didn't have enemies. It was just, I always felt like I am just a little different than these people. Yeah. And I can't fully say what's on my mind because people will react in a way that is not like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Like, people are not being open-minded. If I share my off-the-wall opinion, they're going to have one of two reactions, and it's not going to be what I think. So I'd find to button my lip mostly. And, it's like now all of a sudden I meet these people and it's like I can say the off-the-wall thing and I'm not being judged. And it is like this comfortable space where it's like I can say something potentially offensive. I can say, potentially something really meaningful. And the root of it is I can say what's on my mind and I'm not feeling ostracized.
Right.
So it's like all of the sudden it's like, oh, the conversations, the people I met out there. I'm like, damn it, Heidi. It's exactly what. So yeah. I'm like, yeah, I was like, so I found my people. Like, now what do I do? So there's a thing that was in New York called decompression. I found out about that from a friend who was not a burner or anything that was like, I go to this thing every year called decom. She didn't even know what it was. And she's like, it's this awesome like arts festival. And she was like, this girl was like very into like weird modernist, people walking on stilts going, yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, now I'm going to some artsy weirdo like modern dance thing.
Yeah.
And
decompressions, usually like it's within a month after the burn, right?
Yeah, I think it was like a month and a half, or it was like October.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I find out like, oh, this is Burning Man stuff. As I find out, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, holy shit, I didn't think these people even lived around here.
Yeah.
So I go there and it's like, whoa. I was like, nice. Okay, it's my people. It's the people I've been waiting for my whole life. All right, let me get my hair looking all good. Make sure to check those eyebrows. Like practice saying hello in the mirror. Like, hey there.
I love it. Yeah.
And I'm like so nervous to go try to put like a good impression on these people. And I'm like, don't be too like overzealous. Like, I know you're excited, but these are the type of people you want more of in your life. And, it's like I get myself all calm and step out of the bathroom and go right up to some people. And I'm like, oh, my God, have you guys been to Burning Man? I'm pretty sure they just walked right away. And I was just like, I don't even know what to talk to with these people. And I'd be like, oh, I really like your costume. And they're like, yeah, I like my costume. And then they walk away. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like people are straight up like being mean to me. Oh. And I'm like, okay. I remember having this conversation with this woman who's like, I don't know, she's like 50 or 60. And I started talking about stuff. And I was just like, I'm trying to like make friends with these people. And I'm really just not doing it. And she's like, don't talk to them. She's like, add them on Facebook. Add everybody onto Facebook, and then just go to the events and just like let people get to know you. Don't like be too don't be too much of an excited puppy. And that ended up being great advice, because that's all is like I was too ready to dive in and be like, hey, how's it going? I'm your new best friend.
Yeah.
And
I get it. This is completely extremely anecdotal, but like I just feel like chiming in and saying like that feels like it's more like maybe an East Coast energy. I feel like in the West Coast, like my experience, and mind you, I got into it later than you, but like it feels like people were more like, oh, you've been to Burning Man? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, there's still, it's New York. There is a level of elitism here and competitiveness that is always trying to keep that, cost of entry as high as possible.
Right.
So, even in the alternative communities, there is still that exists there.
There's a sense of, it any sort of new organism, I think, if you're like looking to enter it, has some sort of defense mechanisms to kind of filter out, what it is. So, one example I always give people is that I feel like the playa hazes you. Like no matter what you're doing and no matter where you're going, everybody has stories about all kinds of ridiculous stuff that happens before you even make it out there.
Yeah.
And, it feels like whatever, like, this consciousness is, this energy, this movement, this community, it has different defense mechanisms in various parts of the world on how, like, what the barrier of entry is. So it's interesting that your experience there was that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so please, I want to know sort of, like, what's going on in these coming years. Did you start going to Burning Man every year? Because it sounds like you kind of found the community, you started to kind of make connections with people here. Yeah, well, yeah, it was a little struggly at first, because it's like I was the hyper puppy that wanted to go like have everyone pet them. Yeah. And it's like I loved costuming and knew nobody that did. Yeah. I liked throwing parties for, like when I was a kid, birthday parties in my family are a big deal. Or, anything where it's like you get to dress up and have food and decorate the place. And I found like throughout college and, it's like I kind of dropped into that in college. In like my group of friends, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to decorate every room and have a different drink for every room and watch everyone be like, why are you even doing that? All we need is a keg and a light bulb. Yeah.
So yeah, it was like I'm starting to feel like, oh, these are the people who understand like what I think is important and what I want. And so it was just really this balancing act of like trying to not get too excited about the fact that I've waited so long to have like-minded people in my life. And so yeah, I just kind of took that one woman's advice, and I would chat with people and just kind of wait for people to be like, hey, why don't you come with us? Why don't you do this? Oh, do you know these guys? You should know these guys. And then at that point, it very naturally started occurring. And someone's like, oh, what's a great way to like really meet people is working on a project. Yeah. And so then I volunteered for a costume cult party. Yeah. And it's like I don't know if you've talked to David Katz on this show. You should probably. He's amazing. But yeah, he's the first person I met in Costume Cult. He was running it at the time. And it's like, we're making decor for a party. And it's like all the stuff I would usually just do by myself for an event, there's a bunch of other people doing it around me. And so it's like I really liked helping make that party happen. And at that point I was like, I'm going back. Yeah. And I had been on vacations. I had been all over the place. I did an exchange program in college to LA. I feel like I visited friends in various places in the country and been on a lot of vacations, a lot of different places, experienced a lot of different things. nothing ever made me feel like, oh, I'll be back here next year.
Yeah.
And I was always confused when people are like, oh, I go to Mexico like every year.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do the exact same thing
Me too.
over and over again?
Yeah.
Like, that sounds boring. And it was like right away, I was like, I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go back. And that kind of evolved in helping Nick. Like, every year it became like, how do we do more? How do we make this thing bigger? Like, how do we, because at this point it's like, oh, we're all collectively used to throwing parties on our own, probably. All these people are people that like to host people and create things. So the collective energy is like, we make this mega party thing happen. So I was all in and contributing as much as possible to other people's projects, to my projects, working with Nick. And then we like globbed onto another group and combined our art cars into a bigger art car. Which was hilarious because we ended up somehow in this like group of goths, and it's like, I don't know, it's like my teachers my nickname in college with my teachers was Pretty Boy. Mm-hmm. So goth probably didn't really match what I was used to.
Yeah.
And but I also enjoyed that we ended up in this weird place. Like, I wouldn't have been like, hey, let's camp with the goths. But I loved camping with the goths.
Yeah.
It was just by happenstance we end up like sharing workspace and combining our art car. But we just kind of continued one-upping it until the first time Burning Man let me down was when the leader of the camp we were staying at drove the tow vehicle, because we had a trailer that we just started putting all our effort into building out this trailer, the original coffin,
right.
Adding a floor to it, adding lights, adding different wings, and upping the sound system and the drinks and painting it and improving it. But their vehicle, the deal was their vehicle towed our trailer, which was where everybody would stand. We could hold like 60 people. And the leader of that group decided to drive the vehicle there, even though it was really old. Mm-hmm. And he knew there was some like engine problems. And when he got it there, it was like, oh, it's got an oil leak.
Yeah.
And we all knew this. And now I'm just thinking back to the first time when we had our trailer falling off or hanging on by threads
and
on the drive
just,
up
like,
there.
Scrambled and saved it for you.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, an oil leak.
Yeah.
Freaking, chewing gum or something. Or we just put a pan under it and keep putting oil in it. It was very solvable in my mind. Mm-hmm. And this guy in charge was very stern about nobody go anywhere near that vehicle. There will be no art car this year.
Interesting.
And I found it to be, those camps, they're not democracies. They are various different organizations, but they are not democracies.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was enraged that we had made it, and I told him this, that, we had put in time and effort, and for him to not even make an attempt to fix this thing was unfair to us.
This was the camp lead?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like, sorry, that's how it is. I don't want that. I need to be able to drive that thing home. I'm not going to risk it getting broken. And it's another one of these moments where it's like, you are wrong.
Yeah.
Like this, you are making the wrong decision. You're being selfish. But at a certain point, I was just like, well, he's not doing it. He's not going for it. We don't get in our car this year. We put in all this effort. And because someone made a decision, a self-serving decision or just needing to be in control is how I viewed it. Mm-hmm. It affected our ability to participate with this space.
Yeah.
But then I kind of made terms with it, and I'm like, that's a bad attitude to have out here. So I'm just going to go and have fun.
Yeah.
And then I decided I'm not going to go back.
Mm.
And I didn't go back the next year. And I later decided I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to let him deter me because that's one person.
Right.
And I'm like, just because he had a bad attitude. Honestly, what I said at that point is I'm never again going to get in a position where somebody can prevent me from following through.
Yeah.
And that's literally all I saw him as was like a roadblock that wouldn't let me past. and there was nothing I could do.
And this is just one guy.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's super interesting because, like, as you're describing this, what it's reminding me of is so many situations where a person may have a less than pleasant experience with somebody from a different community, and, like, that one person will be the face of that entire community for them.
Yeah.
You know, but the desire, like, the ability to work around that, the desire to work around that is you know, something that drew you towards, like, continuing this journey, which, you know, here we at now.
Yeah. Well, I felt at that point like that in itself was a problem that needed
Right.
a solution to.
That a single person could be the roadblock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? These, like, people want to come together and, like, build something, and things out here are existing because people want to come together and work with other people, make things happen. Various different reasons, but it is a space that allows these things to connect. And for this person to be the thing that is, like, fighting that energy really bothered me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I can be his antithesis, you know, and I'm going to go out there and make sure that I go help out some other people with their projects, or maybe talk people through some difficult discussions within their group. And I was like, and past that, I will be in charge of my next art car project.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I want to go bigger, and I don't want to be dependent on somebody else, because I'm going to say yes to me, and I'm going to say yes to a lot of people about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm not going out there to have, like, a corporate structure that, you know, have somebody be like, well, I'm in charge, so you don't get to do what you want. It's like, well, no, I'm here for that to not exist. So yeah, I kind of followed in Nick's lead, where at one point I said, why are you putting every penny you have into this project? And he said, because it's the best use of this money. I'm going to get the most out of it. There's nothing else I could spend this money on that I would get this much out of.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, I was a very frugal person. I didn't spend a lot of money on things. I would, like, you know, literally save change in a jar and be like, oh, I'm going to go on a trip someday. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna, you know, for the sake of all the people out there like me that, you know, would benefit from, you know, somebody kind of busting their butt and being a proponent for them, I'm gonna dump some money into this project.
Okay.
So then I designed this giant turtle, and we'd already gotten pretty big with the last project, but I kind of, all right, I wanted to be the biggest. I wanted to be the biggest art car out there, and
how New York of you?
yeah, and it's like, I'm not gonna say there was no ego involved.
Yeah.
It's like, I wanted to be big and flashy, but it's like, I wanted to be big and flashy, but be like the art car you can get on. Because part of the reason too I kept going with the art cars is me and Nick had the same experience in our first couple of years. We'd go out there and see an art car and be like, oh, look at this thing. It's a giant boat. And, you know, we'd walk up and be like, can we get on? And they'd say, oh, sorry, there's too many guys on there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I am so sorry.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I am sorry that I am a guy, I guess. And then it's like, well, do I run back and get a wig, or do I just be okay with this?
And this was in the mid like, what is it, late 2000s?
This was was like at, you know, 2006 or so.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I would say most of my experience, people were very welcoming.
Yeah.
But there was art cars that said, there's too many guys, there's not enough girls. This is just for crew.
Right.
We're picking up specific people that we're supposed to pick up. It was just like, it was not the majority of the experience, but there was a lot of people that I was not invited.
Right.
And I thought, well, this place was so inspiring to me and so welcoming, and allowed me to mentally move into this new place and connect with people. Like, this is not the right attitude, and I can't fight these people. I can't go off on them. I might have yelled at somebody.
Right.
I'm not going to say I didn't, but
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't like that. And I was like, who are these people like that can afford this giant stuff? And it's like, are they literally just because they can have bigger toys, get to decide who exists in their world? Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, like, you can exist in my world as long as you're not giving me a hard time.
Yeah.
You know, you're just kind of letting me do my thing. If you're not injuring me and injuring my guests, that's pretty much fine.
Yeah.
You know, if there's going to be a hairy conversation here and there, I actually am fine with that. I think that's important for the world to be able to communicate with each other. As long as you're not doing harm to yourself and others, do what you want. Mm-hmm. And now I find these people that are just like, well, you're not the right type of person. So,
interesting.
And it's like, I would say, you know, I don't know if I'd ever really consider myself like shy, but I'm not going to like step in and, you know, correct someone. I might be like, I'm going to back down from this and not argue. But then I'm sitting there thinking, like, what about all the quiet people I met that are just like genuine, nice people that are having this great experience, and they're, you know, 7 levels below me as far as connecting with the world.
Sure.
And it's like, well, what about them? Like, how is this going to affect them? Mm-hmm. I could see it being very discouraging. So a big part of me building the big turtle, which we named the Taj Mahal. Thank you, Nick, for the name and the logo.
That's beautiful.
Was to let's build this thing that is as big as anything out here and drive around, and all the people who are questioning whether they're allowed on or not, we're going to stop and invite on. And it's like, you know, you might want to say that's kind of like a little sappy, over the top. Like, I'm going to round up all the huddled masses. No, I don't want the huddled masses. There's a lot of people down on their luck that are pieces of shit. Yeah. I wanted the people that had been, had their face shoved in the dirt strictly because they could, give those people opportunity to experience these things too.
Right.
So it's a little altruistic, you know. Again, a little bit of ego, a little bit of altruism, a lot of money, and let's create this thing. And it really came together.
Nice.
And that turtle was actually my biggest art car. That was 65 feet long.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
where did you build it? Where did you put it together?
This was amazing happenstances again. Mm-hmm. Nick, through his connection, his goth network, found the goth network is strong. He found this guy named Steamboat Ed, who lived up in Santa Rosa, that had a ranch, which was just like a big open field. It was kind of like he was amongst farms, and he had just had like a big open field and a house and a huge metal shop. And Nick had made friends with this guy. And this guy was like, I think Ed was at the time like 70 and had been building his own art cars and had built some pretty big art cars completely by himself. So I was really inspired by this guy. And he's like the sweetest guy, super smart. And he's like, yeah, we were looking for a space, and we're like, hey, could we come and build this in your yard? Mm-hmm. You know, he's got the space, he's got the tools, and he was all for it. And, you know, we worked out a deal with him, and he's like, yeah, you can come here. Like, the house is off limits. He's like, but camp out. You can use the yard's yours. It was pretty much like, here's a yard and a shed.
Right.
Do whatever you want. So we went out there and set up a tent, and Nick was my roommate in a tent for a month.
Wow.
And
what was the base of the vehicle?
So after the first situation with the thing almost breaking, I was like, we are buying a trailer. So I bought a car hauler trailer somewhere in like Santa Rosa. So I dropped in to San Francisco, and I rented a truck for a month from some like commercial space. I had to pretend that I was a company to rent this thing, and it was hard to. You can rent pickup trucks, but to rent a pickup truck with a tow hitch, at least at the time, I don't know what it's like now. At the time, that was near impossible. So I found a place that would rent commercial vehicles. Yeah. So I had just lied my face off, and I was like, I am a commercial company, and I will be moving these trailers around, and they're like, okay. And I get there, and they're like, where's your commercial insurance? And I'm like, oh, I don't have that policy with me. I'll have somebody back at the office send it over. And they gave us the truck. But we went and we bought this trailer because as far as I was concerned, as long as the bones are good, you have something solid, everything above it is going to be fine.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to have to worry about like welding a trailer or getting a flat tire on some janky thing we built. I feel like there's certain things you don't mess with.
Yeah.
You know, am I going to set that axle 2 millimeters off and it's going to wear down one of the tires? It didn't seem like the challenge I wanted to take on.
Yeah.
So bought that, and all I had really was like some sketches and some stuff I designed in 3D, and part of it it was a steel tube mesh. Mm-hmm. It was like a giant 3D model because I'm a 3D animator.
Right.
I made a giant turtle, and the software didn't really exist that I had access to, so I measured each length by hand in the computer and kept a spreadsheet of it. And I sent it to a guy I found on the internet to cut all of these tubes for me. Mm. And I worked with him to come up with a way so that all the angles would match up.
Wow.
So I bought the trailer, I picked up all the tubes. And it's like, I really didn't even know how I was going to build this thing. All I had was the sketch and how I thought it was going to work. Yeah. Because it was going to be built off of a mobile disc. So I had the trailer, which is a rectangle, and I needed to figure out how to put the outer parts on and be able to hold what would be like 70 people. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm figuring all this out while we're in a tent on the ranch that, 100 people is like 20,000 pounds. These trailers barely can hold that. It's a lot of weight to pull. It's structurally, we're not talking about building a deck. You know, like this is something that can very easily break and everyone get injured.
Yeah.
So I was telling Ed I was concerned about this and I had some ideas, but I wasn't sure they were going to be safe. So he started inviting over friends from his builder community and these makerspace communities in Santa Rosa. And a couple of people, they start arguing with each other and it should be this way, it should be that way. And at the end of the day, we met this guy, Bruce, and Bruce builds amusement park rides. Like little roller coasters and things. And he's a welder. And Bruce is amazing because he just builds kind of like he wings it. He like looks at it and then welds it and it's in the exact spot.
Wow.
Somebody else would be like, let me run it through the computer and run a simulation. And then I got to angle this and grind this. And then it's like 2 days in the shop, but Bruce just welds it and it's right.
Yeah.
And so he's over and he's having a discussion with this guy, Richard, who like invented this thing called the GigaPan, which was a spherical image creator. Like these guys are like NASA people that this other guy is. And they come up with, you just need a suspension bridge.
Okay.
I'm like, well, duh. That's what you came up with? Of course I need a suspension bridge.
What about a hover mechanism? What's that? Let's just install that where we're at it.
They're like, yeah, how much nuclear material do you have access to? No, not a lot. Okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, they came up with this design that changed my design because I was going to have the sides resting on wheels. And they were like, no, it's going to be more solid and easy to steer if it's suspended. So they'd come up with this sketch on a napkin. Okay? Here's what, and it was 4 poles going up from the center of the trailer, and then a box that connected the 4 poles, and then cables that came down. Because it was like, with that in place, everything would be solid and connected and hold as much weight as I wanted.
That's wild.
So I'm looking at that, and I'm like, this, like, something in my head is like, that is the path you should take.
Yeah.
Let's forget about the stupid wheel thing that, not that it's stupid, but it is.
Yeah.
I ended up going with that design and he welded it a lot and I welded the rest. And that's it. It was pretty much me and Nick for a month working on this thing. And then we got out to Burning Man and worked on it for like a week. Let's say about 2010 or 2011.
Okay. I want to kind of like leap ahead to kind of like so we can get kind of a good story of like the modern day understanding of Icarus, like how you ended up where you are.
Yeah.
Part of like what I've been kind of noticing throughout our conversation is that a lot of this, like hearing your stories, for me has been a portrait of leadership development. To me, like I'm kind of going back to like even your first experience, you know, having this experience where Nick was like your intern and you're used to being his boss and learning how to follow, which I think personally is one of the most important character traits of strong leadership, is understanding like that it's a service. It's not an ego thing. I'm just a boss and I can tell you what to do.
Yeah.
You know, like somebody is providing that service of being the leader on a project, and as long as they're serving their team well, everyone will continue to follow. And it looks like you continue to have experiences like that at each burn that further solidified your views of how to be a good leader and what to do to make things happen, to be fluid when you need to, and to listen to the voices of people. And then of course, like the part that was interesting to you, the carrot on the stick, was like, I want to go pick up the ones that feel left behind and they're not getting picked up by other art cards.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff is like developing into, you know, you being in this position to take charge on a project that is like so far above and beyond the means of like, you know, somebody going to the burn for the first time. Like
Yeah.
you're looking at that and going, are you fucking kidding me? Like you put this thing together and there's this many people doing it and there's the hierarchy, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I think, but also, you know, we talked about this a little bit earlier, like your ability to have like a detachment from the outcome. When you're having a conversation, we're going to solve what this conversation is right now before we get to the next thing. Like, I didn't ask you about UFOs, man. I just asked you about life. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, like, what the experience with the Taj Mahal, if you could reflect, what kind of, like, major leadership lesson do you think you received from that experience that led you to your next project?
Well, I think one of the interesting things about the Turtle project, and then, which I reused that structure 2 more years. I made it to be changeable. So I could then make a snail out of it and then make a spider out of it without doing, you know, starting from scratch. But the lesson really learned that first year, when I was really for the first time in charge of a very large project, was that people don't care as much about the project as they don't care as much about your project as you do. And also, everybody who volunteers or gets involved has a specific compensation they are looking for. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about people are there because they want to make friends.
Yeah.
They want to have a good conversation. They like music. Yeah. There's, you know, maybe they want to learn some new skills, or they're looking for a romantic partner. There's a like proverbial 1,000 reasons that people volunteer or get involved.
Everyone has a currency. We just have different ideas of what that currency is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the big smack in the face with that project, was watching me staying up for 3 days straight working on it and watching other people have their limit of how far they wanted to go.
Right.
Because people would say, I'm in it with you. Now, I'm in it with you to me means like, if you're up for 3 days straight, I'm up for 3 days straight.
Yeah.
But real quick, I learned I'm in it with you. I will do whatever it takes. Means I'm going to work really hard for about half an hour and then I'm going to go have lunch for the rest of the day. So that was the confusing thing to me, is like, are these people avoiding me? And at first I thought they were being like lazy or they were intimidated and scared. I don't think it also was a lesson in communication, because did I tell these people, like, this is going to be a lot of work. We're going to work 10 hours a day. We're going to wake up at 6 a.m. and we're going to work till it's hot and then take a break. And I want this thing done before we go party, because I feel like once we go party, the work will just no longer feel as much of a priority and we might not finish.
Sure.
And that's all the things going on in my head. that I shared none of. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, it's like, oh, these people are just like, they'll just follow me because they trust me.
Yeah.
And I would watch people burn out or peel off, disappear, start making excuses. And I was really confused and upset by it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, as it was playing out, though, I had to just keep talking to myself and be like, to look at it from their perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, look at it from their perspective. And I kept having to come up with perspectives that I had never thought about before. Yeah. Where it's like, oh, this person literally just wants to come here and meet a new girlfriend because they just had a bad breakup and that's what they think is the right thing for them to do.
Right.
They don't want to come here and work on the drill. Every time I hand them the drill, they start, you know, like crying and holding the necklace that the ex gave them. And no size bolt will fit that hole in your heart.
Oh, God.
So it's like, these were a lot of the things that were going on. Is like, everybody was in different places and I'm trying to like lead people towards my vision.
Yeah.
And without taking their visions and their reasons for being there into consideration. Yeah, so that was a big lesson that year.
Yeah. So you take that in. Let's get to Icarus. How would you say? What would you say is the introduction of that story? Where did the idea come from?
That is an extremely difficult thing to answer, because what Icarus actually was for me, like the next logical step was like, we're climbing up a building, up a mountain. This whole experience with projects and inspiring people was all about like, how do we do this bigger and more? And it was like, diminishing returns. Yeah. And, starting to obsess over like, how can I do that? How can I make the biggest, best thing there and share my message of, less of the elitism and more of a, like, you can do this too. And it was a little idealistic, but that's what, that was for me, the driving force was. And I, along the way, met a lot of people who were involved in other art car projects, other camps that, I felt like I kept having the same conversation when I would discuss things with other project and camp leads, is that same thing where it's like, well, people are telling me they want to help and then they don't show up. I try this, I try that. And over the years, there was a lot of testing and figuring out, like, how do I get to the place I want to be without burning people out, right. Making sure people are happy to be there and feel like they're important, and that everybody gets the compensation they're looking for.
Right.
Trying to find more like-minded people that want the same things I want, or at least figure out something close so that I had a team that was at least, cohesive.
Right.
Because to me also, it started to become that the team was important, and that actually it was less about the project and more about the building of the project. And the thing that we're all doing together started to emerge as an important thing for me.
Right.
Was the camaraderie that came along with having a combined goal. Mm-hmm. So it did seem logical to just go bigger. And I felt like, well, I need a little help in the leadership role. I need a little help in some of the big decision-making stuff that I have not been able to find other people to do. So I would talk to other group leaders and find that they're in the same place. They want to go bigger. They want to find more like-minded people. They want to really, like, see what we can do.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what we can do. And I ended up making friends with people who helped on my projects. I helped on theirs. And there ended up being 4 of us that decided together we wanted to do something large. We felt like we were all capable of doing something large on our own, but to do something large together, we know we would be able to do something impressive.
Right.
So it's like, well, now we have found the core people to produce the sort of thing we want to build. And we're starting off with like a really cohesive inline team. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, it was just like, okay, what are your dreams and that? Because I had this dream for, it's really ridiculous, like this giant mobile disc that's like 150 feet wide on the back of semi-trailers with roller coasters in it. And, like literally probably like a $3 million project.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And, that's like where I was going. And then, I had met these other people, and a buddy of mine, Evan, who lives down in Philly, he's like, hey, listen, I've been talking to a friend of his, Ben, and a friend of both of ours, Ilya, out in San Francisco. And he's like, well, you know, we all want to do this big project. And I talk with them, and like Ilya's on board. He'll do all our like mechanical building, so we know it's going to be all structural because it's going to go big. And he's like, you know, Ben is down to build and dedicate time. And I knew Evan was good at bringing people together. And he's like, do you want to get together and do this as a group?
Yeah.
And he's like, I think the four of us would be really good. So I was like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for, the team. So it's like we had the team. So then we kind of started discussing, you know, what we could do. Some people wanted to do stuff on a scissor lift. Other people wanted to like just, it was like, what base vehicle should we use? Because that's going to lead what it becomes. So we're looking at big trucks and scissor lifts and different things. And then it kind of like a couple of the guys got their mind set on a scissor lift. And when I say scissor lift, I don't mean like the little thing you put up lights with, like military aircraft loader scissor lifts.
Okay.
Because you can get this stuff surplus very cheap. And, you know, we're looking at these things, they're like $30,000 online.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we're talking about big, and I know how to fundraise. I was able to fundraise massive amounts of money. I wish it caught up with what I spent, but you know, I knew I could raise the money for pretty much whatever we were going to make. Yeah. So I was confident. And at the same time, too, I was working with Evan down in Philly. He was helping with my events in New York. And so it's like we have the money-making machine. We have the design. We have the idea. We have the team. You know, what can we make?
And the technology.
Yeah. It's like, what do we do with all this stuff? And then it came down to someone found a military aircraft loader up in Massachusetts. And it was like, this is what it costs. This is roughly the idea we were thinking. You know, like maybe we do some giant like spaceship-y thing.
Yeah.
And then we're able to like raise it up in the air. And it's like, we can do this. But if we do it, like there's no turning back.
Yeah.
So this is, at this point now, I don't know, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
7 or 8 years ago.
It's fascinating, too, like, so far in your story, like, the beginning of your story was so you alone. How you were experiencing the world. And then, like, as it has progressed, you can just feel the energy turning more to, like, community. Like, the ideation is community. You're like alone, sitting in your tent alone, trying to figure out how to feel. Like, now there's, like, a group of people, and you're like, how does it work? Let's bounce this back and forth. Let's come up with ideas. What can you do? You know, it's really interesting to watch that, like, evolution in your journey. Yeah. And personality.
Yeah, it really, and it has been a journey.
Yeah.
Because it's just constantly changing what everything is about.
Yeah. So where'd you guys build it?
We ended up finding a space down in Philadelphia. That was extremely cheap. It was some of the PEX guys had a metal shop and worked out a deal with us where we had like a good amount of space for very little money. They had some tools we could use there, but there was a lot of people down in Philly. Philly has an amazing like Burning Man community down there. It seems like everybody's like a Swiss Army knife. Yeah. And people are not like, they're not throwing it in their face too. Like, I can do this, I can do that. You won't even know what they're capable of doing, but it's like, oh, somebody help me weld this thing. Oh yeah, I've been welding for 20 years. It's like everyone's like a secret sleeper, you know, agent down there.
That's funny.
So yeah, Evan got together a bunch of people to like be our core group to build it. And so we had set up all sorts of things, and it's like we all kind of split off and took lead on different things we were good at.
Yeah.
I had gone through the process of here's how to build an art car, here's how to, you know, fundraise for it, here's how to face the org and make sure everything is up to their code,
right.
And here's how to keep people interested and involved, and how to do like logos and marketing. And I guess I was kind of felt like I was in some sort of like executive position.
Sure.
But in retrospect, like the four of us were, it was an interesting thing to think that it has to be a hierarchy, but then in some sense, there's four of us that at any given time are taking over each other's responsibilities.
Yeah.
Certain things I thought I was going to do, I ended up not doing at all. And so
when people are in alignment, there's less of a need for rigidity in hierarchy and structures.
Yeah.
You know, there's just that sense of like, all right, you're going to pick it up now, and somebody else is going to pick it up now. You know, a lot of those rules and structures are a lot of them come, can often come from like a fear-based place. Like, how do I put a lot of structure in place in order to prevent the possibility of terrible things happening?
Yeah.
Just even like your experience that you're describing about like understanding people's different commodities, like different currencies. I feel like that's a powerful lesson that comes from decommodification. Like, if you're not just a boss that's hiring people, and you're like, I'm giving you money, you're paying your mortgage, so you have to tell, like, I have to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh, it's not, if we remove that aspect of it, to some extent, you have to actually connect deeper with people and look for the alignment in community building together and together, rather than just shut up and do what you're told.
Yeah.
How did the concept for Icarus come together? Like, what was the ideation there of like the design? What was the story behind that?
See, this is a highly disputed story between our founding members.
Good disclaimer.
I feel like everybody has an idea of how they developed it.
Yeah.
I will say it was more proposed to me, so I'm not going to take that claim. I told them I wanted to just build something big, and I wanted a mobile dance floor. So what I had in my past art cars that I enjoyed was a vehicle that was big, that could host people, for a lot of people to dance and mingle and, connect and be able to park and hold a party. So for me, my next art car was going to be like a mobile party with music, with lights, with space for people to interact with each other and not be crammed in there together. And when it came up in a discussion, like, how about this like robotic spaceship? I'm like, yep. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. So I feel like I just agreed way at the beginning, and I was just like, that's fine. I didn't even see any sketches or anything, and I'm like, giant spaceship, that's fine. It was and I feel like it was always less about the structure and more about what it could do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's funny because it's like, my other partners in that, and like the four of us, it's like looking back at stuff. It's so interesting. Like when people changed roles and some people got more passionate, less passionate. And it always kind of was like changing between the four of us. And, at some point it's like, Ilya very much, because he was doing he's an engineer, since he was doing the, engineering and the mechanical, like the checking the weight loads and stuff that I would have just winged, or I would have asked Bruce. He's like testing in the computer and that. So a lot of the structure ended up being an opportunity for him to do things the way he wanted because it needed to be structural.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, I don't know how much of the design was design or we needed things to be here so that it was weighted equally.
Yeah.
And, it was just funny because at one point I feel like me and Evan were letting Ilya just kind of design it how he wanted. I feel like Ilya felt the most passionate about how it should look. Right. So, the fact that we were all kind of equals, it was like, you feel the most passionate, you're going to do it. And, we'd say like, well, let's do this here, let's do this there, and he would adapt it. But at one point, it's years and years later, I'm at Evan's wedding, and we're having a conversation about Ilya, because Ilya, just like Steamboat Ed from earlier, were in those robot wars competitions when they were younger, and they both were winners at it.
They're remote control robot fighters. What channel was that on? Like Sci-Fi Channel or something?
I don't know.
But it was like a whole movement around it. Yeah.
Yeah, but Ilya was like on this huge winning team, like and it's like he was driving the robot, heavily involved in the design of the robot.
Fascinating.
And me and Evan are talking about this. And I have this realization, because it's like the design of all these battle bots looked very much like Icarus.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think Ilya tricked us into building a giant battle bot.
No, as you were describing that was literally my moment.
And it's like, the thing looks amazing. Yeah. The thing looks amazing, but it's like somewhere in the back of my head, I was like, he tricked us into building his giant battle bot.
Oh, yeah.
And it is. It really, it is. It doesn't, It doesn't actually fight other art cars, but with intimidation it does.
It gets taller.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So tell me about first night on Playa with Icarus. What was that like?
Well, so that was a rough one.
Yeah.
Because we decided in I believe it was May to take ownership of this vehicle. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of discussions over, do we build it for this year or do we build it for next year? Like, do we build this over the next 4 months or do we build this over the next 16 months?
Wow. Yeah.
And my experience with running the cruise for Burning Man, you have a lot of idealistic people that like shiny objects, and if you have their attention, it's not for very long.
Absolutely.
So I pushed hard I feel strongly, again, I've gone through this whole process. If we do it over the course of the next year, it's all just going to get done in the last 4 months anyways. Let's just do it now.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's going to sit there. People are going to go and sit on it and have beers for a year. Nothing's going to happen. And then in the last 4 months, everyone's going to bust their butts. It's like, we all kind of had different positions on that one, but ultimately decided to push forward for bringing it to Playa that year.
Yeah.
So I believe actually we had got the designs in, just barely done, just in time to get approval for that year before we even built anything.
That's wild.
So now at this point, I had 6 years of giant art cars approved by the organization.
Yeah.
So that again was to our advantage because didn't send any pictures.
Yeah.
I also knew a little bit of what to address with them, to make sure that they were comfortable approving such a large project.
Right.
So we got approved. We started building. A bunch of people got involved, learned how to weld just for the project.
Wow.
And by the time we were shipping off to Playa, it was only 85% done.
Yeah.
So, we're shipping this thing on a truck and it was hard enough to get it on a truck.
Yeah.
Then, we didn't even realize how much it was going to cost. $11,000 to ship this thing from Philly. Now, we didn't really put that into our budget. That one really took us by surprise.
Did you think it was going to be a lot cheaper?
Yeah. Because it's I had shipped art cars before, but I'd always split a shipping truck with other groups. So I'd only ever, spent a couple $1,000 for a piece of something, not understanding at the time that other people were funding more of the truck than I was.
Right.
So now that we had to get a whole truck to ourselves, we got the whole cost.
Oh, man.
And it was a nightmare too.
Yeah.
People camped out on my parents' front yard with bins waiting for the truck to arrive 2 days late to take all our stuff and our car.
What do your parents think about all this, by the way?
They've always just kind of tolerated me.
They're whatever.
They don't say no. They don't say yes. They just kind of let it happen.
Yeah. Fair. Better parenting than most, I say.
Yeah.
So yeah, first night on Playa. What was it like? Finally, you get it out there. It wasn't fully complete yet. You're finishing it up there. At Burning Man?
It was nowhere near complete.
Yeah.
It was all in pieces. I believe actually I had flown out a couple weeks early, so I wasn't there when it shipped out. I flew out early to meet Ilya, and we were working at a space up in Sausalito, building engines for Icarus out of wood by hand. So we were up there working for a couple weeks and then, brought all those pieces out. So everything was coming together. All of those, things that were cut to dock with each other, some built in San Francisco, some built in Sausalito, some built in Philly, all was coming together for the first time on the Playa. So we did, we hoped it was going to fit. We felt confident. Some things didn't. But we were there. We got there early, and we were well into the week before it was complete.
Wow.
I don't know if I remember this correctly, but I believe it was Thursday through Burning Man week.
In true Burning Man fashion, honestly. We've seen plenty of projects that don't even complete.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you tinker away at it, and so it wasn't really a first night. I guess around Thursday is where you really got to spread our wings, so to speak.
Yeah, well deep into the week, and we're making things not sharp and all the safety things, making sure with the fire extinguishers there, everybody knows what they're supposed to do to walk around it. And and then we got approved. We ran it for a couple days, and that was it. Yeah. All that work for a couple days.
But it was obviously worth it.
It was. It was. And it really, like, because we had parties leading up to it. So a lot of the people in New York, at the time we were only fundraising in New York. So it's like, you know, a lot of New Yorkers felt pride for it because it's like, oh, yeah, we're fundraising for this thing. These are our friends building it.
Yeah.
And, so it's like we had a lot of people that were out there just like clawing at the side, waiting for us to be able to drive them around. Yeah. So that was really awesome. But, it was...
Big DJs your first, I don't know, that first year?
The first year, no. I mean, big DJs, it depends who you ask.
Yeah.
Like, to me, my favorite are my friends that DJ.
Yeah.
Like, I like the atmosphere that the DJ brings. Mm-hmm. If they're more of an elitist DJ and they want to bring that attitude, I am not going to have fun. Yeah. If they're somebody that's going to play random goofy stuff, if they're there to heighten the experience and be there with the people, to me, that's my favorite DJ.
Yeah.
So that's not always the same person. We had a lot of our friends, and actually, like, Ilya and Evan, they're also DJs. So it's like we already had built-in DJs too. Right. That two DJs that I already liked their music and how they play. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, we kind of, since we were like a little bit ragtag, our intention was like never to really have a big name DJ. It didn't stay that way.
Yeah, that's the part of the story I want to hear. Out of everything we've learned about you and how it's all come together, I'm curious how we ended up with today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, to go into that, it's like, we just kept bringing it out there. We kept working on it, making it work better, safer, have like better sound system, more safety, more little bits of art. And
more safety, but still third, but more safety.
Yeah, I'm kind of insane about the safety on the thing. I'm sure I drove everybody nuts. I'll share something. So when we were building it, we were getting cut like crazy, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to drive people nuts if I keep telling people, like, don't leave sharp edges. Like, I don't want to be everyone's mom and be like, hey, don't forget, like, people can get injured. Think about people's safety around here. And I'm like, I don't want to drive everyone nuts, but this project needs to be safe.
Right.
So it's like, I'm trying to think of, like, clever ways to get people to not leave sharp edges when they're cutting things.
Okay.
So, and it keeps happening to everybody. Everybody's getting cut constantly because it's the edge of a piece of metal is a razor blade. Yeah. And I get cut really bad. And I'm like, damn it. And so, people are like, oh my God, oh geez, that's a huge cut. And I was like, just comes with the territory. It's an Icarus kiss. The art card just gave me a little kiss. And then everyone started calling the injuries
Icarus
kisses. Now, I've told this to nobody. No, not even my partners. The whole intention of that was to get people to notice the fact that we were getting cut all the time.
You branded the injuries.
Yeah. And at some point, somebody goes, we can't call them Icarus kisses. This should not be normal. This should not be okay. It shouldn't be a cute little thing that we're doing things and people are getting injured. And I'm like, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. But if I said that, I would just be the guy who's always saying shit like that.
Yeah. That's some good reverse psychology.
It worked out. It worked out. Even though I probably got the worst Icarus kisses. I slid down the back and shredded my arms. Oof. So, yeah.
Do you guys have a medic?
That day, one of our crew members was like an EMT, and It's like I remember going out listening to a specific friend DJing while I have like a tear in my arm, and he's wrapping my arms in bandages because I was helping people get on the art car because the back was slippery.
Yeah.
And then once everybody was on, I slipped down it and shredded my arms. I was like, I'm trying to help these people. Yeah. And I get injured.
Do you feel like it's been successful, like being the car that's picking up the people that you felt were left behind?
You know what? To be honest, it's been mixed. And
So I would imagine your experience has changed a little bit now being on the other side of it, right?
Well, now it being such a big car, we started getting asked to show up to events. Like, oh, be our sound system or come to this. And it's like all of a sudden the art car is getting invited to things.
Yeah.
And we have places to be. And then these bigger name DJs are offering to play. But then all of a sudden it's like everything's flipped. And now we're in service to this system that we didn't understand even existed, where it's like, oh, well, people are going to expect you to be there. So now you got to be there. And like this DJ wants things a certain way. So if you want them to play and everyone wants that DJ to be there, you're going to have to do it. So all of a sudden people are dictating how our project goes. And it's like, oh, well, what the fuck?
That's fascinating.
I don't know if I could swear on your show.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
The warning at the beginning of the show is swear words.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like at a certain point, it's I do remember us having like, we got to go to this burn, we got to pick up this DJ, then we got to go to this thing, and then we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be doing this. And I remember driving, and my partner is driving the art car, and he was like in line with me about like, let's make sure we stop every once in a while, pick up people, and like, you know, we're this. You know, we're doing things different. We're doing things the way we think they're supposed to. So that idealism from the beginning is like, we're still on board with that. But I see him and he's honking at people that are in our way because we're late to get to some party at Burning Man that people are expecting us to be at.
Other pressures.
And I'm watching this and I'm like, this is not how it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now we are exactly the people that I hated from the beginning. I have become what I hated the most. That which defined me, I have now become. So it's
of our own demise.
like Ouroboros.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and that was like really upset. And at that definitive moment too, I was like, how the fuck did this happen? Like this is not what it was supposed to be. Like I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I don't think I can steer it in the direction. It's taken on a life of its own, and it did.
Yeah.
It had become something bigger than all of us, bigger than all of the parts combined, including all of the people. And it was like that year we did have a discussion, and it was like, hey, like, why are we serving all these people? I think it's like people were so excited about the project in Philly, in New York, in San Francisco, that it almost became like they dictated what we were doing at all times because of the expectations.
Right.
And it stripped us of all of the, you know, like all the inspiring moments, all the fun, random happenings, you know, the like all those things that would just kind of like happen at random.
Right.
All the little happy accidents or the people you'd meet had been removed because now we were on a track and we were part of some sort of system. And so we had decided the next year to like not make a schedule. Like we're not going to make a schedule. Because part of that too was, you know, like we just kind of let people. It's like, oh yeah, we'll pick up your camp. We'll take your camp here. And, you know, it's like we show up late, people are yelling at us. And it's like, well, we're not your Uber, you know? But yeah, so the year after that, we had decided like no schedules. We're not going to be anywhere at any specific time. And we're not going to give DJs slots. And because they'll show up and they'll be like, I'm supposed to play right now. It's like, no, this isn't your art car that you, because you're, you know, granting us with your gift of playing music you didn't make. That you get to dictate the whole world, and unfortunately, that's the attitude.
Yeah, heavy as the crown, my friend.
Yeah.
So that's good though. You had a moment where you recollected yourselves, and you're like, this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
You know, like this is the whole reason we came out here was to have fun, and then kind of forgot that because all the pressures that come with that. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Do you feel back on track?
I do. And I feel like literally the last couple years we went was such a hammering in the face of you're doing this now don't forget that these wrong reasons keep popping up.
Right, yeah.
You know, this is supposed to be about inspiring people, and it's supposed to be about working together. This is not going on your business resume. This is not about who's got the biggest art car, who's got the best DJs. If you want that, you're not getting out what you want.
Right.
And it's like we've kind of struggled with, because it's like now it's a fight between that thing. Because there is it's a thing that is the same every year. Where my previous art car experiences, it was always new. It was, and even my one art car group was called Reformata, because it's like the whole point was do it new every year. And I think that's actually been one of the problems with Icarus, is because it has become a thing that is expected, because it is the same every year. It's like this collective group of expectations forces us in a certain direction.
Right. It's an institution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is something, the more that, like, I feel like only recently, and I feel like COVID has actually been a part of it, is like, what are we doing this art car for? And the fact where it's like, hey, there might not be a Burning Man this year.
Right.
And coming to terms with, like, we did take a year off, but it was like, well, you know, maybe we'll go without the art car, you know? Is it about the art car? If it's not about the art car, we should be just willing to go anyways. So anybody that has to have that art car, maybe you should think about what it is, what your Burning Man is.
Right.
So, you know, I think that this pandemic has made us all think about, like, what is this project? Because we haven't had a moment to really stop and say, is this still what we want? Is this in the way we want? Is this how we want to spend our time? Are we doing what we set out to do? And, you know, has this thing seen its end? And I think the fact that we're willing to not really answer those questions is actually the important part.
Yeah.
It's like, do we have to define it?
Yeah.
And we did have a willingness this year to go back and put a costume on the entire art car. And it's like, some of the guys in our group were like, let's do some goofy thing and just like cover it with like bright fabric and just make it look totally different. And it was like a little bit of like, no, this is the thing we're supposed to be. This is what people expect. And when the willingness to just change the whole thing came up, I feel like that was the moment where everybody looked at it differently.
Yeah.
Where it was like, forget about any of the notoriety or any of the DJs we've had play on it. Like, this thing was made for a certain reason. And if we're not willing to just like step away from the whole thing or laugh at it, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the place we're at now, is the level of seriousness has been stepped away from, and the level of expectation has been stepped away from. And, you know, when we all go back to Burning Man, whether we bring Icarus or not, or it becomes something different, it doesn't matter, because we don't have to decide that right now. Deciding that and like making us all agree, I think was driving us crazy. But
what
this,
you're describing is giving me all kinds of like warm and gushy feelings. Because I mean, to find like to find joy in the mystery. I mean, that really is like I think a fair argument could be made that is the secret to life. To be able to find joy in the mystery, because we don't have certainty. We have a myth of certainty in our heads.
Yeah.
I've done something 1,000 times, so I think it's for sure happening. Like, I'm driving on the freeway, and I'm kind of doing it on faith that the guy next to me doesn't just turn his steering wheel and smash right into me, and my life's over. I don't know for a fact that he's not going to do it. It's just because I've been on the freeway 1,000 times, so I just assume.
Yeah.
So it is a myth of certainty that exists, which is really interesting. And a lot of your story has been coming back to that lesson, which is really... For me, it's a really beautiful takeaway from this conversation, which I really appreciate for you bringing to my attention. I want to. I think I really appreciate your candor and all that too. And I want to know if a story pops out in your head of your favorite memory of the past, I don't know, 5 years, a favorite experience that you had out there, with or without the art car. What jumps out at you?
You know, I instantly think of this one night. I think it was I think it was the year that we did the art car. Oh, it was. Okay. So that year that we were doing the art car and the group we did it with wouldn't let us use their vehicle. Mm-hmm. Now we're stuck without an art car. And I'm remembering back what Nick said. And he was like, spend a night by yourself. Yeah. And for me, being someone who I feel like I'm independent, but I won't say I always feel comfortable being alone. I mean, I'm comfortable alone. Being alone in a crowd of new people to me is frightening. Yeah. So it was like, well, you got to do that. You got to, get your immune system up by going outside. You got to go be by yourself sometimes to be more comfortable all the time. So I was like, well, we don't have an art car. Maybe I'll do one of those night by myself things. Yeah. And it's like, now we had like a group of friends with us. And I was like, when am I going to get to do this night by myself? And there was this one night where we got all ready and I ended up putting on this robot costume that was so hot because I covered myself in that space blanket, which who knew that would make you hot?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so hot. I said, hey, you guys just go on. I'll meet you at this party thing we're going to. I'm going to go change my outfit. Now, I realized when I got back, I might never see them again because the phones didn't work out there at the time. And I was like, and we didn't have radios. And I was like, well, actually, this is kind of the right moment for me to just forget where they went. Yeah. So I grabbed a bottle of plum wine and I just went out on my own. And I find myself like very easily being charismatic with people. It's really easy for me to connect and make buddies and make people feel comfortable, except for when I'm completely by myself. Mm. So now I go out there and I'm like, okay, here we go. Here's going to be the excited puppy who's going to like say some awkward thing. And I'm like, all right, okay, let's go do this. So I go out there and I remember going to the different parties and being like, hey, nice costume you're wearing. And it's like, okay. Hey, do you come here every year? And I'm like, what the why are you saying these things? It's like a demonic possession, but being possessed by the most awkward person you've ever met. It's like, no, I'll take the demon. Give me the demon that like eats people's brains. This is way worse. So
you like Burning Man?
So I was like, why is my voice cracking? All right, I'm like 30 years old. Okay, hey guys. I really like your shoelaces. I didn't know they could light up. So I'm going through now hours of this, hours of people running in fear from me, thinking I'm either an undercover cop or the most uncomfortable Asperger's person they've ever met. And then eventually I was just like sitting there listening to music and I was like, all right, well, if this night is Brandon in his weird pirate costume, drinking plum wine by himself, listening to trance music in a dome with a bunch of strangers, that's fine. I'm fine with that. And then I look over and I see this giant birthday cake that people are sitting on. And I see somebody crawl out from underneath the birthday cake. I'm like, well, this is interesting. The thing's maybe like, I don't know, 15 feet wide, just like tiered birthday cake, wooden sitting structure. And I'm like, oh, there's a little hole in the side there. Now I'm a little curious. There's some little hole that somebody found a little cubby. Yeah. And I go and I kind of look in and I hear voices. And I start to climb in and it is completely black in there. There's not a single light on in there, but I hear like 10 voices. And then I realized the ground is like cushion. So the inside of this birthday cake was all cushions and pillows, and it's filled with people, and everybody's talking to each other in there. And I start chatting with people, and it was a very interesting experience to be holding conversations, not even knowing if the person you're talking to is facing you or next to you or across from you. And there's probably like 3 different conversations going on, maybe like 12 people. And it's like I'm handing the bottle to strangers. I mean, I could have been drugging them. They could have been drugging me. Sure. It's like all sorts of things could have been going on. And I do remember at one point hearing a voice go, "Is this okay?" and this girl's voice go, No, not really.
Oh!
No, I have no idea what happened.
Oh my God.
I just remember thinking it was so funny because in my head, it's like all of the things it could have been.
Yeah.
And it was like out of nowhere. Everyone's talking and it's like, is this okay? No, not really.
Oh my God, that's really interesting. But this almost like sensory deprivation chamber was like, by removing a couple of your senses, you were able to connect with another part of yourself.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because it's like, like when you wear a mask, a lot of people, you take on a different personality.
Yeah.
And it was like wearing a mask in a way. I mean, I'm already in costume, but it's like, I'm not a pirate.
Yeah. It was a removal of your avatar to some extent.
Oh yeah. That's interesting. It's like, it was no mask. It was nothing but a voice.
Yeah. Just consciousness. That's... I want to really point out the beautiful poetic irony of us wrapping a story with the art car guy about the day that he didn't have the art car. that was what came to your mind as like a beautiful memory to remember.
I know.
I couldn't have planned it any better myself, as the host bringing the story together.
Yeah.
Well, Brent, I want to thank you so much for everything you've done to contribute to the community and all these amazing adventures that we've had, as a direct result of the energy that you've poured into this thing that we're all geeked out and nerded out about. And everybody on your team, everybody who's ever sacrificed and received an Icarus kiss, thank you, all of you, so much for all of the blood, sweat, and tears that you've poured into it. Because it really is like goes without saying that it is the work that participants like yourself do that give us these magical, powerful experiences that make us go out to the desert and then come back and say, fuck it, I'm quitting my job. Leaving out to the thing. So I really appreciate you. I want to wrap by asking my last question. What do you think those lights in the sky were from when you were 5 years old?
The thing is I still don't know. And I actually, a couple years ago, looked it up. I was like, I don't know why it popped into my head. I was like, maybe it had something to do with the earthquake. So this is probably 2 years ago. I looked up online, lights in the sky, earthquake, and was inundated with information. It is actually a very common experience to see lights in the sky when there is an earthquake. And there is no scientific explanation that is accepted for it, but it is a phenomenon that happens and is recorded. So it continues to be an unexplainable thing.
And you're totally good with that.
I don't know if I ever want to know.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting for some level of validation that it wasn't just a memory of something that didn't happen.
Interesting is a fucking understatement for that. I tell you my theory. I think it was a giant art car. In the Burning Man that we're not aware that we're all at, that's happening at various levels of consciousness, quantum time loops. That's what's happening.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
Brendan, thank you so much. This has been awesome. You're fucking amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
All right, you are now listening to the sounds of Beat Kitty. The set that you are hearing was recorded at Bat Country on 2&A Friday night of Burning Man 2018. You can follow Beat Kitty over at soundcloud.com/thebeatkitty. That's spelled TheBeatkitty. Please leave us a review on iTunes or on your podcast platform of choice, and message us if you want to support the show by contributing in any fashion. You're always invited to pitch interviews in your neck of the woods, and I may come your way. All of these links are over at burnerpodcast.com, where you'll also find links to Alkaline, Build to Burn, Into the Fire, and Music.bm. Our producers are Louis Galipo in Bermuda and Lana Boy in Brooklyn. Our opening theme music, America's Horse with No Name Remix, is produced by Joman, and you can find him over at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. So until next time, love, light, and all that other crap, take us back to the playa. Beat Kitty.
Put your lighters up. We gon' live in top. We gon' live in top. Put your lighters up. Put your lighters up. We gon' live in top. We gon' live in top. Put your lighters up. Put your lighters up. We gon' live in top. We gon' live in top. Put your lighters up. Put your lighters up. We gon' live in top. Never let them sip me. Top shot up. Straight. Top shot up. One, top shot up. Straight, top shot up. Never let them sip me. Top shot up. Straight, top shot up. You know what? Top shot up. Straight. Shut up. Put your lighters up. Put your lighters up. We gon' live in top. We gon' live in top. Put your lighters up. Put your lighters up. We gon' live in top. We gon' live in top. Put your lighters up. Put your lighters up. We gon' live in top. We gon' live in top. Put your lighters up. Put your lighters up. We gon' live in top. Never let them sip me. Top shot up. Straight. Top shot up. One, top shot up. Straight, top shot up. Never let them sip me. Top shot up. Straight, top shot up. You know one, top shot up.
Cause you're not me, and I'm not you. You're infected, I'm unaffected, so we ain't connected, you get me? You're not me, and I'm not you. I'm new, who are you? We haven't been introduced. You see, you're not me, and I'm not you. You're infected, I'm unaffected, so we ain't connected, you get me? You're not me, and I'm not you. I'm new, who are you? We haven't been introduced. As I approach, I'm not frightened, I'm not surprised, I'm a titan. I'm at their heels, I'm biting, they feel my grip and it's tightening. I'm 4-9, check my timing, man, I'm a diamond with lining. Don't only vocal or beat me, I fucking whine it and dine it. When I write, I'm designing, define it, kind of inspiring, defying mad of my kind, as if everybody was lying. So is this living or dying? Well, are you laughing or crying? I'm fucking proper defiant, I'm fucking back in a riot.
Everybody riot. Everybody riot. Everybody riot. Everybody riot. Everybody riot. Everybody riot. Everybody riot.
not you. You're infected, I'm unaffected, so we ain't connected. You get me? You're not me, and I'm not you. I'm new. Who are you? We haven't been introduced. You see, you're not me, and I'm not you. You're infected, I'm unaffected, so we ain't connected. You get me? You're not me, and I'm not you. I'm new. Who are you? We haven't been introduced. Yo, I'm not the type to be quiet, man. I sit down when I'm tired. This man is cordless and wired, been low and tired and fired. I'm surrounded by liars, swimming the river denial. See through the eye of a needle, they need a retrial. He didn't buy it to live in, man, he just bought it to buy it. And now the city centre homeless occupy it. Decide if you be dying or living in sin or in Zion. I'm fucking proper defiant, I'm fucking back in a riot.
Everybody riot. Everybody riot. Everybody. That's life, that's love, that's joke, suffocate. That's everything. And I make a rapper joke. That's mine, that's blood, that's medicine. That's fine, that's trust, that's relevant. That's time, that's dust, that's sediment. That's life, that's love, that's everything. That's mine, that's blood, that's medicine. That's fine, that's trust, that's relevant. That's time, that's dust, that's sediment. That's life, that's love, that's
a tomboy. Who that is, ho? That girl is a tomboy. That girl is a tomboy. That girl is a tomboy. Who that is, ho? That girl is a tomboy. That girl is a tomboy. That girl. Who that is? Who that is? Who that is? Who that is? Who that is, ho? That girl is a tomboy. That girl is a tomboy. That girl is a tomboy. Who that is, ho? That girl is a tomboy. That girl is a tomboy. That girl is a tomboy. With my little titties, my fat belly, I can tell your man if you feel Latin, it's a guarantee that he won't forget my body, look, my soul is heavy. My little titties be big as cities all around the world. They be fucking with me. I'm a Calvin Klein model, and get up the rest of y'all. Don't be fucking with me. My little baby, I go locomotive, chitty chitty, bang bang, old hoops in that main shitty. 10 moves to like 4 frames. This together can't stand the rain. Two playing in the same games. With my little titties and my fat belly, my little titties and my fat belly, my little titties and my fat belly. My little titties and my fat belly, my little titties and my fat belly, my little titties and my fat belly. Who that is? Who that is? Who that is? Who that is?
Tonight's one of the wickedest nights whenever I hear music in all the life. I'll tell you the truth. Anyway, without further delay, something like this.
Retreat. Sound boy surrender, retreat. When the sound is run, they hear a boy. Retreat. Sound boy surrender, retreat. When the sound come, it take over. Retreat. Sound boy surrender, retreat. When the sound is run, they hear a boy. Retreat. Sound boy surrender, retreat. When the sound come, it take over. Retreat. Sound boy surrender, retreat. When the sound is run, they hear a boy. Retreat. Sound boy surrender, retreat. When the sound come, it take
Mr. Hudson, come to kill a soundboy tonight. On me that I stole like love, I'll kill a man like Manjaro. Yeah, all up the ante, with bass like Abashanti. You don't know I'm a rocker, I'm heavyweight like the Shaka. I'm strong like an oxen, I'll kill a soundboy like Coxon. Yeah, I'm up for the action, drop down plays like Saxon. No, you're not that man, you're not heavyweight like Fat Man. Your bassline ain't dirty, you ain't nothing that can top it. Man, I'll start going like Rodigan, said any soundboy up on the Me now take back chat, ready for more like Black Cat. This ain't a look of soul man tea, mighty cold man tea. You'll get a dub plate slappy, man I can't go like Natty. Take the class to the pinnacle, we want the original. I'm ready for battle, put on the dub plate, watch how I tackle. Yeah, my man like White Rice and Michael. Follow the herd, follow the cattle. Nah, that's them man, G-card them and the chickens, them and the cows. Like what, I'm ready to do this now. You can have a sound clash right now. Ready for more like Black Cat. Man I can't go like Natty. We want the original.
No big friend, no nada. Test them, I test them, cause they can't test me from far now. Don't know I go harder, smarter, man I'm gonna go faster. Ha, cause they harass them, they ain't got no heart blood. Left them in the ladder, head no good, no nada. Hear them and I hear them, but I ain't me from far now. But it's slow or faster, man's in it, till it get darker. Ha, on par with the rest of them cans. Left them in the ladder, no big friend, no nada. Test them, I test them, cause they can't test me from far now. Don't know I go harder, smarter, man I'm gonna go faster. Ha, cause they harass them, they ain't got no heart blood. Left them in the ladder, head no good, no nada. Hear them and I hear them, but I ain't me from far now. But it's slow or faster, man's in it, till it get darker. Ha, on par with the rest of them cans up banana. Them in the ladder, no big friend, no nada. Okay. Test them, I test them, but they can't test me from far now. Don't know I go harder, smarter, when I'm gonna go faster. Ha, cause they harass them, they ain't got no heart blood. Left them in the ladder, head no good, no nada. Hear them and I hear them, but I ain't me from far now. But it's slow or faster, man's in it, till it get darker. On par with the rest of them comes up banana. Minga, Rowdy Red. Yo, me not know them, or them not know me. All them have to know is that me a go set speed. So me see, watch me creation grow. Step on our stairs and mash up, mash up.
sabi, 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 sabi. If you never know, shake your body, 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 body. Now the good show. Get down, get down, get down. We dey underground. Oh yeah, get up, get up. My leg dey for ground. We want dance, feel the groove, rocking shows, head to France, no darling, shake body, jolly they go. J Martins party, 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 party. Catching fun in here, oh yeah, jolly, 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 jolly. Omo we dey here, get down, get down, get down. We dey underground, oh yeah, get up, get up. My leg dey for ground. Get your back off the wall. Get back up. If you fall, if you not fit dance, nod your head. Do not I tell you. Simon says, go down, 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 go down. Oh yeah, shake hands, 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 shake hands. Catching fun in here. Oh yeah, get down, get down, get down. We dey underground. Oh yeah, get up, get up. My leg dey for ground. Get down, get down, get down. We dey underground. Oh yeah, get up, get up. My leg dey for ground. Some young niggas like to sweat.
$1 million. What? Tommy Mottola made Mariah a high roller. Gigi posing like Mona on all your wall posters. Killing all bogus, the hottest smoker. Be yourself, the owner, industry's coasting. We change your building. Yes, it's worth $1 million. Giving hard ons, you never knew could hit the ceiling. I want you now, I want you later. I got Sosa's for midnight specials, $50s. Then my annihilators. Knocking most valuable haters. Hating on the play, pocketing this form of paper. And in the handouts, so haters don't want to see your face later. Paying out you paper. Worse than the chicken head with no flavor. Bigger than this space, creating nothing gon' save you as a part hard on your boulevard. On guard, coming for the charge. You pop lit with your no-hit wreck scars. $1 million hot, $1 million pop, $1 million wheel pops, $1 million thugs, $1 million hood stuff, $1 million dust, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million hot, $1 million pop, $1 million wheel pops, $1 million thugs, $1 million hood stuff, $1 million $1 million. I'm a biggie. Just make the walking closets. Hermes watches is a champagne game crate. Put links on my tray to bust book or the bills paid. Front of the bay, 38 puffy fucking great. I got a couple of Jafars, Bruce Lee's receipt. Getting me bum trying to tuck my cheese. Secrets never getting out $1 million schemes. Let me have this please. Ease that ass several seats. Stay up from a round table, fucking nightingales. And peeps and jails if the dog has his day. You be rockin' chop tails. No bills, fly girl, fly nails. Getting that overseas express slave. Sorry, that's sorry. If you failed at G to get a nail, Hail Mary's being yelled. Go to baby, don't waste my pockets, fuck you pay me. Bitch, I'm $1 million, baby, that's the difference. You're rockin' now.
Rockin' now.
Just walk silently, cause you don't really want it, though you talk violently. I don't really want it, cause I stop violently. Tryna solve my problems, cause it don't make sense. Hence, when you see me step, don't envy. Natural swagger others do find trendy. Just try and be yourself if you can be. Real, how we try and keep it no fake friendly. One love thing, keep it sharp in your memory. Make more sense than sensey. Remember, send me tell you say events unfold intensely when people don't roll decently.
sound die. Not a time, not a place, I'm a nice guy. Not the time, not the place when the dub a fly. Not a dance, not a chance, so not catch blind. Going at them prison, all them with a catch fight. Never realize, even though we bad still, we're the good guys. Play the bad dog, play the good vibes. Tell her sound, see my down, better start nice, cause it's better than Christ, and they never last life. Better recognize, yeah, we fully weaponize. Music what we deal with as the weapon of me Christ. Colder than ice, hold them like a kill them with a second of device.
We come through the record discotheque. 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 Discotheque, 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 discotheque.
Beat so hot, make him 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 beat so hot, make your mama's panties drop. Your mama drop.
Fly beat. It's a fly beat. It's a fly beat, yeah. It's a fly beat. It's a fly beat, yeah.
Beat so hot, make your mama's panties drop. Beat so hot, make your mama's panties drop. Make your mama drop.
Drop.
9 to 5. Guess you can't do that, but when I try to unwind, you'll be shouting down my ear. I got fever, I got fever, yeah, I got fever over here. I'm on fire. Working 9 to 5. Guess you can't do that when I try to unwind. You'll be shouting down my ear. I got fever, I got fever, yeah, I got fever over you. I'm on fire.
BurnerPodcast.com.